Chapter 71 Good and Evil. I read The Investiture of the Gods, 5th update. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Following Guan's gaze, there was a man in plain clothes sitting right above the word Tao. His figure and appearance did not look outstanding, and even his aura was very ordinary. If Guan had not used his lifespan to continuously investigate, he would not have noticed the extraordinariness of this man. Yellow Spring Demon King, 9th level of the Crossing Void Realm, 3847/5700/14000. It turned out to be a demon. Guan knew that the lifespan of demons in the same realm would be longer than that of human cultivators, but he could not help but be shocked when he saw the other party's maximum lifespan of 14,000 years. What kind of skills did this guy practice? There was no demonic aura at all, and even he, a great cultivator in the fusion realm, could not tell. The most important thing is, demons also like to practice swords. Guan could not help but think of Haolong, who he raised, who was also obsessed with swordsmanship. He did not stare at the Yellow Spring Demon King all the time, and his eyes continued to sweep to other figures on the Butian platform. Those who dare to sit and comprehend the sword have high cultivation. After all, those in the Qi training and foundation building stages are busy absorbing Qi, and have not yet reached the stage of sitting and comprehending. Guan realized that he had underestimated the influence of Fu Dao Jian Zun. Although he had never heard of Chu Xian before, with Chu Xian's cultivation, he must be very famous among the major forces in the world of cultivation, especially the great cultivators, who all know him to some extent. The fall of a person in the Dushu realm will inevitably cause a shock to the dynasty. It seems that he has to keep a low profile in the future. As his fame ferments, who knows how many monsters and demons he will attract in the future. Guan looked at everyone on the Butian terrace before leaving. He has now developed the habit of using his lifespan to detect unfamiliar people. He would feel uncomfortable if he did not check the other person's background. Next, he will farm peacefully for a few years and wait for the world of cultivation to forget Fu Dao Jian Zun. He has already written a book about Fu Dao Jian Zun and the scandal of the outer sect. Ji Hantian urged him to finish it last month. This book is not a novel, so he only needs to publish one copy. The spring air covers the earth, and everything is full of vitality. In the third medicine valley, Guan and Guyu are drinking in the house. The good and the evil that you wrote has spread throughout the Taizong dynasty. Now no one is discussing Taishan Immortal Venerable. Everyone is talking about Taishan sect and Fudao Sword Venerable. Guyu was jealous. Guan smiled and said, after all, Taishan sect is the first righteous sect. Now that such a thing has happened, everyone will be curious. Don't worry, in a few years, the immortal cultivation world will lose interest, and then they will still have to follow the legendary story of you, Guyu, fighting against the foreign demon emperor. When Guyu heard this, he smiled and began to praise Guan for his good writing and asked about the next plot. Guan would not reveal it, which made Guyu very itchy. By the way, I recently got a book. The protagonist in it is called Guan. It's very interesting. Guyu suddenly said, and he took out a book from his storage bag, Taishan's Secret Biography. When Guan saw the title of the book, his heart trembled. It's broken. She really got started. My reputation is in jeopardy. Guyu shook the Taishan Secret in his hand and laughed. Brother Gu, have you read this book? Guan asked curiously, what book is this? This is a good book. Tell me the truth. Did you write it yourself? Guyu asked with a smile. How is that possible? Let me see. Is it so good? Guan snatched the Taishan Secret from his hand and began to read it. Guyu raised his eyebrows and asked, is it really not written by you? Was it written by someone close to you? Guan frowned after reading the first page, as if he was really reading it for the first time. Seeing him frown, Guyu couldn't tease him anymore and poured himself a glass of wine. Seeing Guan's face getting uglier, Guyu thought for a moment and said, this book was circulated in the inner sect. You probably don't know many inner sect disciples. It's probably a coincidence. After all, the name Guan is not uncommon. Guan closed Taishan's Secret, took a deep breath, and said, does the library allow this kind of book to circulate? This book did not go through the library. It was circulated privately by the disciples. Guyu said helplessly. Guan was silent. Guyu saw that the atmosphere was not right. so he stood up and said goodbye. Before leaving, he comforted Guan a few words. After he left, Guan began to taste Xian's secret. It must be said that Shinjin did study Qingxia travels. At least this book is better than the original in his opinion, although some of the content is unbearable to read. Guan in the book is full of chivalrous spirit and has a chic and unrestrained personality. He is very likable and does not discredit him. After reading for an hour, Guan closed Xian's secret, then walked out of the attic and continued to work. His goal is to plant medicinal herbs in a 100-mile area as soon as possible. Today, he has to fence off the land to prevent inner disciples from breaking in. Inner Gate City, Ji Mansion. Ji Xiaoyu sat at the table, holding a book in her hand. Opposite her sat a man, Ji Hantian. How is this book, Good and Evil? Ji Hantian put down the tea bowl and asked. Ji Xiaoyu flipped through the book and replied, very good. The narrative can make people feel like they are there. It does not cover up the sins of Taishan sect. Chu Xian's ugly face is portrayed in detail, but the cohesion of the outer disciples' unity is also very touching. At least after reading it, I don't think Taishan sect is rotten. Instead, I feel the foundation and spirit of the first authentic Taizong. Ji Hantian curved his lips and said, do you know who Panan is? Ji Xiaoyu was silent. It's Guan, your servant. Unexpected, right? Ji Hantian asked with a smile. Ji Xiaoyu said quietly, actually, I know, but I didn't expect that you already know it. Grandpa, you didn't ask him to write this book, right? This will cause him a lot of trouble. Ji Hantian gave a fake cough and said, it doesn't matter, I will protect him. Thanks to this book, I have a greater say in the Elders' Hall. It is not impossible to bring down Chu Tianqi in the future. Ji Xiaoyu looked back at the book in her hand and said casually, I think the Ji family should not get involved in the position of sect leader. It is good like this now. They are scattered among various sects and will not become the target of public criticism. That's because you don't understand how difficult it was for Liu Beidian to suppress me before. Otherwise, how could I let you join Taishan sect? You just want to use your talent to gain face for me. Ji Hantian snorted, mentioning Liu Beidian. If the sky is defeated, he will be annoyed by it. You caused Guan such a big trouble, can you compensate me? Of course, I will expand his medicine valley to a radius of 100 miles. By the way, you can use the Ji family's high-end medicinal herbs to grow for him in the future. I have investigated and found that this guy does have a way of managing the medicine valley, and follow him. If you get closer, you might be able to beautify the Ji family in the future. I read the Feng Shenyan, and he was able to write about GFA, which shows that he has the Ji family in his heart. Ji Hantian said earnestly, making Ji Xiaoyu frown. Ji Xiaoyu's eyes showed dissatisfaction and said, Grandpa Zhu, don't be too calculating in your dealings with others. Silly boy, this is not a calculation. You can get the best of both worlds, why not? Ji Xiaoyu lowered his head and continued reading, which made Ji Hantian shake his head. Ji Hantian stood up and said, the 100 Clans Conference is about to begin. You should be prepared. You must win the top spot on the Hidden Dragon ranking. After that, he walked away, and after taking only 2 steps, he disappeared into the house. Ji Xiaoyu did not get up and kept staring at the book in her hand. In March, the spring breeze is cool. One day in the first 10 days of the month, the Ji family sent someone to the 3rd Medicine Valley and delivered a large amount of medicinal herb seeds to Guan. The lowest grade was 4th grade, which made Guan very happy. Before leaving, the Ji family monk secretly revealed that the 3rd lady was very optimistic about him. The 3rd lady personally selected these seeds. If you have any needs in the future, you can contact her. Naturally, Guan would not refuse, and then expressed his stance that he would never forget Miss Third's kindness. After hearing this, the monk left with satisfaction. The Ji family, Gu Zong, and Jiang Qiong are all giving him seeds, which saves Guan a lot of costs. He plans to recruit more handyman disciples, filling at least 20 places, and each person will be matched with a monster. The treatment is full. On this day, Guan took Mr. Tian to the outer gate city. Mr. Tian took the initiative to come, saying that he wanted to see the word righteous way on the Tianbu platform. after arriving at the outer gate city, the two separated. As soon as Guan walked to the door of the miscellaneous hall, a male disciple came up to him and whispered, "Fellow Taoist, I have a treasure here. I only need 2 low-grade spiritual stones. 2 pieces. Why don't you go and grab it?" Guan lost his temper and walked around him. The disciple stopped him again, then took out a book from the storage bag, and said mysteriously, "Look carefully, do you know this book? Many inner disciples will read it after the retreat, and it contains great creation." Guan glanced at it and saw 4 words, Xian's secret biography. He pushed the other person away directly and left a message, "Sorry, I read conferred God." The disciple looked at his back, cursed a few times, and then looked for someone else to sell him. Half an hour later, Guan walked out of the handyman hall, followed by 11 people, both men and women, all young, and they all looked excited. Guan was able to recruit so many handyman disciples at one go, so his status was certainly not simple. With such seniors, their path to immortality would become broader. He led the handyman disciples to the patching platform in great force. The handyman disciples have long been curious about the sky-building platform, but their cultivation is low and they usually dare not come for fear of upsetting the senior monks. Guan quickly found the figure of Mr. Xian. The old man stood under the main character and looked at it very seriously. He glanced in the other direction. The Netherworld Demon Emperor at the 9th level of the Crossing Void Realm is still there. At this moment, the Demon Emperor is gesticulating something with his right hand. Guan just looked at the time for 2 breaths and thought to himself, "Good guy, isn't this the sword move of Tai Tsang Jing Shen sword? This guy can understand sword moves with his sword intention. It's so evil. No, I have to mention the Tai Tsang Jing Shen sword in the future, and invest a lifespan of 10,000 to 20,000 years next time to maintain my status in the sword." Guan withdrew his gaze and walked towards Mr. Xian. "Ha ha ha, I understand. I understand." Suddenly, a loud laugh rang out from the patchwork platform. The sound was loud and caused tens of thousands of people on the platform to turn their heads and look. The speaker was an old man, wearing a monk's robe, but his gray hair was slightly messy. He jumped up and flew high into the sky, then stretched out his 2 fingers with his right hand and pointed at the word righteous path on the table. "Thanks to Mu Ziying for the 10,000 starting coins, Sha Difeng for the 6,000 starting coins, Just Seeking Freedom for the 1,166 starting coins, Tianhe Ruoshui for the 600 starting coins, Song Bingshu for the 500 starting coins, and Book Friend 2021030218043596 for the reward 100 starting coins. I'm a serious person. Hey, I'll reward you with 100 starting coins. Tech Gate will reward you with 100 starting coins. Let me report the results. Almost 3,400 first orders have been made. Thank you all for your support. There will be an update today. Chapter 72, Holy Land of Swordsmanship, Restart Plan, 6th Update. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Guan's face changed when he saw the old man trying to destroy his words. What does it mean? Comprehending my sword intent, you still want to destroy my words. Guan almost took action, but fortunately he didn't need to do anything. How dare you? A loud shout sounded, and the speaker turned out to be Li Xuandao's first sword servant, Yi Luyun, who was at the 9th level of the transformation realm, was still very imposing. With a loud shout, the whole city was shocked, not only Yi Luyun, but also the great monks who were comprehending the sword around the word righteousness stood up one after another. Even the Huangquan demon king at the 9th level of the transformation realm looked up at the old man in the sky, with dissatisfaction in his eyes. Guan immediately threw a lifespan probe, Pangyu, transformation realm 2nd level 1279/1720/1770, already close to the limit. No wonder he is so crazy. Pangyu in the sky looked at Yi Luyun and laughed contemptuously. Little transformation realm, dare to stop me? Transformation realm. The disciples on the Butian terrace were in an uproar and retreated one after another, fearing that they would be affected by the battle between the great cultivators. You look down on Hua Shen, so do you look down on Du Su? A cold voice came, and the speaker was not Huang Quanyao Huang, but another cultivator. Guan had seen him a long time ago. He was a great cultivator of the 5th level of Du Su, wearing the Taoist robes of the elders of Tai Xian sect. Pang Yu's face changed slightly. He withdrew his hand, waved his sleeves and snorted, "Okay, you Tai Xian sect have many people and are indeed amazing, I'm leaving." After that, he turned around and flew out of the city, and flew out of the outer gate city in the blink of an eye. "You tried to destroy the place of enlightenment of my Tai Xian sect, and you can leave if you want." A cold snort sounded, and this voice was very familiar to Guan. Coming from the ancient sect, Guan felt that the ancient sect quickly passed through the sky and chased Pang Yu. The great cultivator of the 5th level of Du Su also disappeared on the spot. The tense atmosphere on the Butian terrace eased, and the monks on the stage began to discuss the man just now, and at the same time marveled at the power of Tai Xian sect. Guan felt that this outer gate city owed him a great favor. In the past, there were not so many great monks coming here. Now there are 2 great monks in the Dushu realm watching this city at any time, and the sense of security is overflowing. Everything is attributed to the 2 words righteousness he left behind. Then, Guan led the errant disciples to continue walking towards Tian Lao. The errant disciples were very excited. Today they were promoted to errant disciples and witnessed the competition of great monks. The names of the 2 realms of Huashan and Dushu made them fascinated. "Let's go, it's time to go back." Guan patted Tian Lao's shoulder and said. Tian Lao came back to his senses and stood up. When the 2 looked at each other, he didn't know if it was Guan's illusion. He always felt that Tian Lao had changed a little. He subconsciously threw a lifespan probe. Chi training level 8. Why did it suddenly jump 2 levels? How long has it been? Guan was surprised, but his face showed no emotion. He had long anticipated that Tian Lao would make a comeback. After all, Tian Lao did not abdicate because of defeat, but because of his own mistakes. Such a person could easily return to the top. An hour later, Guan and others returned to the 3rd Medicine Valley, and he asked Xiaochuan to help arrange these disciples. Xiaochuan did not want to leave after visiting the 3rd Medicine Valley several times. He even transferred all the monsters he raised. Guan loved him very much and naturally would not refuse. Among his peers, only Xiaochuan was left to accompany him. Although Wuxin was his junior brother, he came late. At least in his heart he was not as important as Xiaochuan. From childhood to adulthood, Xiaochuan followed Guan and obeyed everything. Such a junior brother, he naturally had to hold him in his hands. Guan knew that after 200 years, when the old friend passed away, it would be difficult for him to establish such a relationship with others, so he cherished it very much. After returning to the valley, Tian Lao walked alone under a big tree to meditate, and I don't know what he was thinking. The sun was setting, and the afterglow of the setting sun shone on the top of the mountain. Yi Yan waved his gun before the sunset, which was very artistic and attracted the new errand disciples to talk about it. The seasons changed, and more than 2 years passed quickly. That summer, Guan, who was already 46 years old, stood on the top of the mountain, overlooking the mountains and rivers. At a glance, there were medicinal fields everywhere, and the park could be vaguely seen in the woods. It took more than 2 years for Guan to finally plant medicinal herbs in 100 miles. Looking up, he was full of a sense of accomplishment. A figure came to his side. It was Xiaochuan. "Brother, Yi Yan has been away for several months. When will you recruit another errand disciple to fill the quota? Our Medicine Valley is too big. If one person is missing, the others will have to walk a little further." Xiaochuan asked. Guan took out the Valley Master's token, handed it to Xiaochuan, and said, "Go and recruit, just to see your vision." Xiaochuan was delighted when he heard it, and hurriedly thanked Guan, and then hurried down the mountain. Guan looked towards the outer gate city, and he felt a strong sword intent. Another person succeeded in comprehending the sword at the Butian Terrace. In the past 2 years, 4 people have greatly increased their sword intent at the Butian Terrace, which has made the Butian Terrace and Fudao Sword Master more famous. Butian Terrace has even become a holy place for sword cultivators in the Taizong dynasty. Sword cultivators from all sects and schools would come to visit, and Taishan sect also showed the most authentic demeanor in the world, allowing disciples from other sects to comprehend the sword intent. This attitude, coupled with the spread of good and evil, not only did the Taishan sect's reputation not suffer, but it has risen to a higher level. Every time Guan thought of this, he would admire the people in the Elder Hall. These people are really resourceful, fighting for power and profit, and they are also very capable of crisis management. No wonder they can become elders. After staying at the top of the mountain for a while, Guan turned and went down the mountain. 2 years have passed, and most of the herbs are still in the growth stage, but his current lifespan growth rate is not slow. He is ready to restart his daily plan. Every night, he devotes 5 years of his life to cultivation and slowly improves his cultivation. The cultivation of the first level of the fusion realm makes him feel a little unsafe, because there are more and more great monks in the Butian Tai, and maybe one day an old monster in the fusion realm will emerge. He walked down the hillside, more than 20 miles away from his attic. He would walk a circle every day to appreciate his foundation and didn't feel tired at all. Just like now, he was walking and enjoying the scenery along the way, in a good mood. Half an incense stick of time later, Guan walked along the river, and a figure fell from the sky and landed behind him. Long time no see. Liya patted Guan's shoulder, trying to scare him. Guan pretended to shudder, because Liya practiced some kind of cheer-attaining method, and landed silently. Why are you here? How have you been these years? Guan looked at Liya and asked in surprise. Liya smiled proudly. Of course, after being seriously injured by the demon cultivator last time, I began to practice hard, and I am no longer the same as before. Really? I don't believe it. Then let's compare. Forget it, the gap between our realms is too big, it's unfair. It's good that you know. Hee hee. Guan smiled and thought to himself, brother, it's unfair to you. The two chatted as they walked forward. Liya talked about his experience of going to the inner gate. After going to the inner gate, he went to the Elder Hall as soon as possible. Unfortunately, before he could wait for the result, the outer gate broke out in chaos. When he heard about this, he was very nervous, fearing that Guan would get into trouble. He took a day to visit Guan in Xian Valley, but Guan was not there at the time. After getting the news that Guan was safe, he returned to the inner gate to concentrate on practicing. He didn't want to lose again, nor did he want to always fight across realms. Why did you think of coming to me today? Guan asked curiously. Liya smiled and said, my father asked me and Li Xuanyu to go to the 100 Clan Conference. The 100 Clan Conference is not simple. It is a battle of the 100 great clans of the 9 dynasties. There is also a ranking of strength, which will be recorded and circulated in the world of immortal cultivation. Moreover, the winner will have unimaginable opportunities. It is not only related to the face of the clan, but also a struggle for personal fame and fortune. By the way, Ji Xiaoyu of your Ji family will also participate. After hearing this, Guan thought of various plots and was very interested. However, he was not qualified to participate, and even if he was too lazy to go. It's good to just listen to this kind of thing. Can you beat our third lady? Guan asked jokingly. I couldn't before, but I may not be now. Liya said with high spirits, and Guan couldn't help but glance at him. This kid's blood is not right. Why do I feel like the blood of a monster? The two chatted all the way back to the valley. That night, they drank until late at night. The other disciples sat around and listened to Liya talk about the 100 Clan Conference. Even old Xian came to join in the fun. By the way, the former sect master LV Badian once won the top spot on the Hidden Dragon list, the Dragon and Phoenix list, and the Immortal Fate list. He was invincible at every stage. It is said that he was the strongest sect master in Taishan sect in 3,000 years. It's a pity that he has gone crazy and died. Liya thought of something and sighed. Guan raised his eyebrows. Old Xian is so awesome. He didn't look at old Xian to avoid revealing that he knew old Xian's true identity. Tang Yu couldn't help asking, Uncle Liya, can Zhou Tongyu win the top spot on this Hidden Dragon list? The Hidden Dragon list is a list of geniuses from all races under the age of 100. Zhou Tongyu is already the number 1 of the younger generation. The book Taishan Shenzhuan made him more famous. Many people think that Zhou Tongyu in the book is Zhou Tongyu, and Zhou Tongyu has also been to Taixunmen, sweeping the younger generation without any rivals, and finally left Taixunmen with his head held high. Liya glared at him and said, What are you talking about? The top position is naturally your uncle and me. What Zhou Tongyu, you just wait and see, this time the uncle will let him feel the taste of failure. As soon as these words came out, all the disciples looked at Li Ye in admiration. How could such high-spirited people not yearn for it? Old Tian smiled and said, "In fact, Zhou Tongyu is not your biggest opponent. There is another person hidden in Taixunmen who is more talented than Zhou Tongyu, but he has been in seclusion and has not revealed his reputation." Li Ye looked at him and asked, "Who?" "Xian, he formed a pill at the age of 30. "What?" Li Ye was moved, and the others were also frightened. Most of the people present were over 30 years old, and they couldn't imagine what kind of qualifications it would take to form a pill at the age of 30. Gu En's expression became strange. In the past 2 years, another person came to Qianya Valley, and it was Lu Xian. He had not associated Lu Xian with Lu Beidian before, but now it seems that these two people are not related by blood, right? Li Xiandao is really powerful. He actually poached the #1 genius hidden in Taixuan sect. It's a bit outrageous. The 6th update. I'm starving. I'll go out for a hot pot and continue writing when I come back. Chapter 73 The Great Powers Reincarnation, The Name of Guan, 7th update. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Old Tian mentioned Xian, which attracted many disciples to ask questions, wanting to know what kind of person this first genius is. Li Ye also secretly remembered this name and decided to defeat Xian in the 100 Clan Conference to prove his talent. That night, the third Medicine Valley was very lively, and even old Tian became talkative, laughing from time to time. When the sky just got light, Li Ye said goodbye to Guan. "I'm leaving, wait for me to become famous all over the world." Looking at Li Ye's back, Guan suddenly envied him a little, always so energetic and full of fighting spirit, and Guan would think a lot before and after doing anything. However, when he thought of Li Ye's miserable injury, the corners of his mouth could not help but rise again. Envy is okay, but you can't learn. After Li Ye left, the disciples of the Third Medicine Valley continued to work. The territory was large, and people needed to patrol every day. Guan returned to Xian Valley, checked each park, and then flew towards Qianya Valley. Along the way, he found a place, quietly invested 5 years of his life in cultivation, and then continued on his way. Arriving at Qianya Valley, Guan walked in from the entrance of the valley. As he walked on the hillside, he saw Yi Luyun and Lu Xian fighting and sparring. Lu Xian was wearing a red robe and had long flowing hair. At first glance, he thought he was a woman. He held a large gourd-shaped fan in his hand. Facing Yi Luyun's sword moves, he easily countered them. The two moved in the air, and it was hard to tell who was better. Yi Luyun suppressed his cultivation, otherwise Lu Xian would not be his opponent at all. Guan could not help but throw a lifespan probe to Lu Xian again. Lu Xian, first level of Jindan Realm 75/480/4900. He formed a Dan at the age of 30, and then his cultivation level did not break through again in the next 45 years. If it weren't for the maximum lifespan of 4,900 years, it would be difficult for Guan to agree that he was the first genius of Taixuan sect, except for Ji Xiaoyu who possessed the Xiantian Dao talisman. The maximum lifespan of 4,900 years was definitely the strongest human talent that Guan had ever seen. Lu Xian did not look like he was injured. Could it be that he had practiced some kind of extraordinary skill like Wu Xian? Sun De, Sun Air, and Sun San rushed to Guan quickly, very happy, because Guan would bring them delicious food every time he came. Although they were monsters, they were captured by Luo Han, but Guan did not despise them, so they had a good relationship. This is a 5th level spiritual fruit. You can only eat one. Don't fight with each other. Guan took out 3 red fruits as big as watermelons, put them on the ground, and let the 3 monkey monsters choose for themselves. He walked towards a park. Today was another day of harvest. As his Medicine Valley grew bigger and bigger, he now had the opportunity to pick every day, and he enjoyed his current life. After he finished picking, Yi Luyun and Lu Xian also stopped sparring. The two landed, and Yi Luyun began to evaluate Lu Xian's performance just now. Lu Xian was also very humble. "Senior Yi, when will you pass the tribulation? I'm waiting for you to challenge Fudao Jianzuan." Lu Xian asked expectantly. His tone was very serious, as if he really believed that Yi Luyun could defeat Fudao Jianzuan. Yi Luyun hesitated and said, "At most half a year, I will go to the Tribulation Valley of Taixuan sect to pass the tribulation, as for challenging Fudao Sword Master, we will talk about it later. Since he went to the Tiantai, he had given up the idea of competing with Fudao Sword Master. The gap is too big, facing such a sword intent, he really couldn't muster up the slightest desire to fight. Xian raised his eyebrows, and his face, which was so pretty that it looked like a girl, showed a look of anticipation. He continued to persuade, give it a try, what if you win? When you reach the realm of crossing the void, the sword intent will naturally transform, and you may not be without the power to fight, and you will become the first person to challenge Fudao Sword Master. Even if you lose, you can be famous all over the world. Guan, who was passing by, wanted to complain, Xian is really sick. Since he came to Qinya Valley, he persuaded Luo Hun to challenge the first gun cultivator of Taishan sect and persuaded 3 monkey monsters to challenge the nearby 3rd-level monster. It's not just occasionally, as long as he bumps into them, he will persuade them. If this guy is really aggressive, Liya would have heard of his reputation. I'll think about it. Luoyun frowned. When Lu Xian saw Guan, he immediately walked up to him, warmly put his arm around Guan's shoulders, and said with a smile, Valley Master, I feel that you are not simple. Do you want to fight for the position of the national teacher? I can teach you magic. Whatever you want to learn, just ask. Guan replied, I have said it many times. I don't want to fight for anything. I just want to grow flowers and grass. How is it possible? As long as you are a human, you have a reputation you want to fight for. Then what reputation do you want to fight for? Naturally, the best in the world. Then why don't you spend the time you spend persuading others on cultivation? I don't need to practice. Sooner or later, I will be invincible in the world. Then you are awesome. What a boast. Dare to say you are invincible in front of me? Guan suddenly had an idea and said with a smile, I heard that you are going to participate in the 100 Clan Conference. If you can win the first place, I will learn your magic. Really? Really? I didn't want to participate at first, but since you said so, you wait. I will leave tomorrow. After Lu Xian said that, he walked towards his house. Guan looked at his back and really couldn't figure this person out. Luoyun came over and transmitted his voice, don't stimulate him. Since he formed the elixir, he is prone to dreaming when he practices. Sometimes he dreams that he is the emperor, sometimes he dreams that he is the sword emperor who is rampant in the world, and even dreams that he is the demon emperor. In his words, he can reach the peak of the world in every life. What's wrong with this? Is he the reincarnation of a great man? Guan immediately did not dare to underestimate Lu Xian. He was not afraid of 10,000, but just in case. This person might really have a great background. Early the next morning, before Guan left, Lu Xian left first, which made Guan look forward to the 100 Clans Conference even more. The Qianlong list is a competition list for geniuses under the age of 100. I don't know who among Zhou Tongyu, Ji Xiaoyu, Liya, and Lu Xian can come out on top. Before Lu Xian came back, Guan decided to raise his cultivation level to the 9th level of the fusion realm, secretly compete with these geniuses for growth speed. It was already noon when Guan returned to Xian Valley, and he felt a familiar breath staying in his attic. Along the way, he said hello to Wu Xian and then went upstairs. After entering the house, Guan saw Yilan sitting at his desk, holding a book in his hand. Oops. Guan closed the door, walked to the table and took away the book in her hand. He said seriously, how can your daughter read such a book? Since experiencing the disaster in the outer sect, Yilan rarely visited him and spent most of her time practicing outside. Now she has been promoted to a deacon of the law enforcement hall, possessing a certain status and power. Yilan looked at Guan and said with a smile, I heard from Zhenqin that you like to read Qing Xia's travel notes on weekdays. I want to see what type of book you like. I don't know about this Taishan's secret biography, but don't listen to Zhenqin's nonsense. It's slander. The Qingxia travel notes were left behind by Master. I didn't read them, and I didn't destroy them. I just kept them as a souvenir. Yeah. When did senior brother lie to you? Snort. Yilan took out a book from the storage bag and threw it on the table. Guan glanced at it, his eyelids twitching wildly, Xian's secret biography. Oops, how did this book become so popular? Yilan looked at Guan and said quietly, Senior brother, I thought it was a coincidence when I saw the protagonist of this book named Guan. Now that I have read Qingxia's travel notes, I suddenly feel that it is not a coincidence. Tell the truth, too, did you write the mysterious biography? How is it possible? I don't write books. I only love flowers and plants. Do you think I will believe it now? Senior brother, I'm not talking about you. Even if you want to read a book, can you read Fengshen Yeni or Taishan Xianzuan? These are better than such inferior works that affect the Taoist mind. Powerful. I really didn't write it. Guan was so wronged, and it was all Shenzhen's fault. Yilan stood up suddenly, making him take a step back in fright. He saw her walking around the table, coming to him and raising her right hand, want to hit someone. Guan felt a headache. Fortunately, Yilan was not going to hit him, but to help him straighten his clothes. She lowered her head slightly and said softly, Brother, if you really like this kind of thing, I can go find a pair. I will accompany you. Guan's ears turned red when he saw her. He quickly backed away, broke away from her hand, and said seriously, Junior sister, don't joke around. If you continue to joke around, I will. Yilan raised her eyes to look at him, let out a scare, and covered her mouth with laughter. Look at you like this. You've made me look like a savage beast. Okay, no more joking. I came to you for another matter, about your apprentice Su Han. Yilan restrained her smile and looked serious. Guan frowned and asked, what's wrong with him? Do you know his family's swordsmanship, called the god of hatred sword? I have an impression. Is there something wrong with this swordsmanship? Well, that's not his family's swordsmanship, but the forbidden swordsmanship of the sword sect of the Dayu dynasty. It cannot be passed on to others. When Su Han went out to practice, he often used the god of hatred sword and killed too many enemies. In the end, he was recognized with this sword technique. This matter has great influence, and it is said that the sword sect is ready to capture Su Han. So miserable, Guan was moved. With Su Han's qualifications, could he be able to act like the protagonist of a novel? Yilan nodded and said, I have already detained Su Han in the law enforcement hall, but if the Jian Zong arrives, the law enforcement hall will definitely not be able to protect him. After all, the other party is also a major sect. It is impossible for the Taishan sect to offend the Jian Zong for an outer disciple. Guan thought for a moment and said, let me think of a way. Yilan said with relief, if you are afraid of trouble, then leave him alone. You can't protect him forever. The reason I tell you is because I don't know how much he holds in your heart, and I'm afraid you will feel regretful afterwards. Guan nodded, and then praised Yilan for considering things carefully. Yilan didn't stay long. After she left, Guan teleported to the Third Medicine Valley and then went to visit Shenzhen. Shenzhen insulted his reputation and had to ask her for help. Shenzhen invited him to her cave before, so he knew how to find it. After a stick of incense, Guan entered Shenzhen's cave. What a rare visitor. It's rare for you to take the initiative to come to me. Shenzhen smiled and said, she was not wearing a veil in the cave, showing her charming face, sweet and lovely. She also held a pen dipped in ink in her hand. Guan looked up and found that the wall was covered with paper. This guy, why are you drawing? Guan quickly looked away and said, my disciple is in trouble, and it involves the sword sect of the Dayu dynasty. Can you help? Jianzong. No problem, they must give us Dao Tian sect face. Shenzhen said with a proud face. Guan immediately told the story. Shenzhen frowned and said hesitantly, there seems to be something wrong. Thanks to Museing for rewarding 3,333 starting coins, Linggenyu for rewarding 1,500 starting coins, Shadafeng for rewarding 1,500 starting coins, Yufangdoran Yuzafang for rewarding 500 starting coins, Huanai Baixing for rewarding 500 starting coins, Jiqiu Dizizi for rewarding 733 starting coins, Book friend 202303080115254669 for rewarding 200 starting coins. Book friend 2022042808391160 for rewarding 200 starting coins. Sleeping Chia for rewarding 100 starting coins. Book friend 202307111913099972 for rewarding 100 starting coins. Book friend 202306042010526888 for rewarding 100 starting coins. It's the 7th update today, a little empty. This book has 5,800 first orders so far. I don't know how many orders I can get at 12 noon tomorrow. Thank you for your support. Chapter 74. Perhaps you are a genius, the sword maniac wants to teach you. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Have some problem? Guan couldn't help but rolled his eyes and said helplessly, next time, wait until I finish speaking before making a decision. Didn't you give me hope and then kill it with your own hands? Shenzhen shook his head and said, the problem does not come from the sword sect, but from the Taoist sect. The God of Hatred sword is not only a forbidden sword technique of the sword sect, but also a forbidden technique in the entire Dayu dynasty. Whenever the God of Hatred sword is released, there will definitely be a bloody storm. 100 years ago, someone practiced the God of Hatred sword. He killed hundreds of thousands of people. He was eventually seriously injured by our elder and later escaped from the Dayu dynasty. The divine sword of hatred is a sword technique that can break destiny. The stronger the hatred, the stronger the sword intention. People with mediocre qualifications who practice this sword technique can break the restrictions of spiritual roots as long as the hatred in their hearts is big enough. But as the realm gets higher and the hatred becomes deeper, it is easy to become a demon and become a demon who only knows killing, so the sword sect does not allow anyone to practice. When Guan heard this, he couldn't help but ask, in that case, why did the sword sect create this kind of sword technique? That was created by a genius from the sword sect. That person came from the sword sect. The sword sect is naturally responsible for handling this matter. They have destroyed all the sword manuals. The hateful god sword will always appear. Maybe that person is dying. I will distribute the sword manuals to all parts of the world of immortality, Shenzhen replied. Guan frowned. Will you lose your mind after practicing this swordsmanship? If this is the case, Guan can't allow Su Han to continue practicing. He can't cause trouble to the world of immortality just to favor his disciples. Shenzhen said earnestly, all sects in the Dayu dynasty are against the God of Hatred sword. If you insist on protecting him, you will only cause endless trouble. There is another way, and that is to have him destroyed in front of the sword sect. If you want to abolish the sword of the God of hatred, you don't have to just forget it. You have to abolish the meridians and spiritual roots and make him immortal. Guan nodded and said, I understand. He said no more, saluted Shenzhen, and then left. Shenzhen looked at his back, shook her head slightly, and did not persuade him. She believed that what she said was clear enough. Noon the next day, Guan came to the outer gate city. Last night he invested 100 years of life thousands of miles away, and his cultivation level increased a lot. The trouble caused by Su Han made him increase his lifespan investment in his daily plan, striving to reach the 9th level of the fusion realm as soon as possible. On the way to Yilan's mansion, Guan was also thinking about Su Han. Su Han is his disciple, he must help, but he can't help unreasonably. And judging from Shenzhen's words, practicing the God of Hatred sword is not a good thing for Su Han. Sooner or later, he will go crazy. This is a painful path. Guan thought about it and decided to let Su Han make his own choice, and he could only help him once. At the same time, he was thinking about another question: if we invest 10,000 years of life in the God of Hatred sword, can we find a way to improve it so that this sword technique will no longer go crazy? But this is something that will happen in the future. Even if he creates it now, Jian Zong doesn't believe it. He can't show it to himself. He would not completely expose himself for Su Han. Although he has the title of master and disciple, he does not owe Su Han anything. Half an hour later, Guan and Yilan walked out of the door of the law enforcement hall. Now that he has made up his mind, senior brother, please leave him alone. No one in this world should be responsible for another person's life to the end. I will arrange for someone to send him quietly to leave Taixunmen. Yilan said. Guan nodded. He negotiated with Su Han for a long time. Su Han refused to give up the god of hatred sword. Even if he promised not to let Su Han destroy his cultivation, Su Han still refused to give up. Su Han said that the sword of hatred was passed down to him by his father, and it was the only connection between father and son. He also wanted to avenge his father through the sword of hatred. At this point, Guan could only give up. Well, sorry for the trouble. Guan nodded towards Yilan. The two said a few simple words, and Guan left. Guan walked on the street, watching the people coming and going, feeling quite emotional. Lu Jiujia went astray for his own path, and now he is a useless person. He can only stay in Xuangu and practice Dao Yen Gong with Wu Xian to see if there is any hope of rising again in the future. In order to take revenge, Su Han had no regrets even if he was an enemy of the world of immortality. Guan is very strong, but he cannot yet decide the path of everyone around him, let alone change the minds of those around him. The world of mortals is full of love and resentment. As Guan thought about it, he seemed to have a clear understanding in his heart and entered a strange state. Unknowingly, he stepped onto the roof patching platform. He accidentally bumped into someone and woke up quickly. Feel sorry. Guan spoke quickly, feeling full of surprise. This was the first time that he fell into such a state of selflessness. He had never encountered such a state before when he inherited techniques and spells. When he recalled it, he couldn't explain it clearly, but he felt that there had been some changes in himself. Were you enlightening just now? The person who was bumped into by Guan asked coldly. Guan couldn't help but look at him. He was a man in green clothes with a weathered face. He was carrying a sword box with 3 sword hilts protruding from the top of the box. Guan subconsciously used his lifespan to detect. Han Ming, 5th level of crossing the void realm 587/1902/2780. This person actually also practiced the method of condensing aura. In the world of immortality, the average per capita is the 6th. Guan asked in surprise. What is enlightenment? I'm just thinking, that he secretly thought that something was wrong. He would not be able to walk and think about things in the future, and he would easily get into trouble. Han Ming stared at him and said, enlightenment is indeed thinking about something. In thinking, it resonates with the nature of heaven and earth, thus entering a wonderful state. You don't have to apologize. I deliberately stopped you. If you go forward, you will bump into those great monks. Is enlightenment powerful? But I don't feel any change in my cultivation. Guan asked, half true and half false. He pretended to be ignorant. In fact, he really didn't understand what enlightenment was. Han Ming turned around and looked at the word righteous path in the distance, saying, enlightenment is very rare. It cannot be taught or predicted. It all depends on one's own understanding and fate. Some people rely on enlightenment to break through the realm, and some people rely on enlightenment to create amazing and unique skills. I have also been enlightened and comprehended my own swordsmanship. Although I don't know what you are understanding, you will feel its benefits in the future. Thank you for your guidance. May I ask your name? Guan raised his hand and saluted and asked. Han Ming replied, my name is Han Ming. I come from the Great Yu dynasty. I have come to ask for advice from the sword master Fu Dao. Guan couldn't help but ask, how do you want to ask for advice, senior? Han Ming concentrated his energy and suddenly shouted, I am a sword cultivator from the Great Yu dynasty, Han Ming. I have come to ask for advice from the sword master Fu Dao. We will compete outside the city in a month. If the sword master Fu Dao wins, I am willing to carve my own sword on the city wall for the disciples of Tai Xian sect to practice. If the sword master Fu Dao loses or dares not to come, then I will add 2 more words next to the word righteous path. That this voice was earth-shattering and resounded throughout the city. It spread far and wide. Even the disciples of the Third Medicine Valley heard it and looked up. Countless eyes were cast from the Butian terrace, all focused on Han Ming. Guan subconsciously stepped back, not wanting people to think that he was related to Han Ming. However, Han Ming turned and walked towards Guan. Don't come over. Guan was helpless. My friend, can you invite me to your place so that we can discuss enlightenment and enhance each other's experience? To be honest, I also want to achieve enlightenment again. Whether I succeed or not, I will teach you my swordsmanship. Han Ming asked with a kind smile. In the distance, Suo Lin, who was meditating next to Xian, saw Guan and his eyes lit up. With his cultivation level, he could naturally hear Han Ming's words. Sure enough. This kid is not simple, my previous intuition was right. Suo Lin wanted to get up, but was stopped by Xian next to him. Don't cause trouble, Han Ming is not simple. He once killed a great cultivator in the God transformation realm with his Yuanying realm cultivation level. He was famous all over the world and was respected as a sword maniac. Xian said in a deep voice, his eyes fixed on Han Ming. His eyes were sharp. Suo Lin was stunned when he heard this. Under the watchful eyes of the crowd, Guan was really overwhelmed and could only nod, then left quickly, followed by Han Ming. The monks on the Butian terrace began to discuss Han Ming's name. Many people had heard of Han Ming's name, and his deeds began to spread rapidly. The elder of the Dushu realm sitting on the stage just glanced at Han Ming and did not stop him. Guan thought about it and decided to take Han Ming to the Third Medicine Valley. Let's see what will happen when Han Ming meets old Tian. Han Ming followed Guan in silence, wondering what he was thinking. After the two arrived at the Third Medicine Valley, Han Ming couldn't help but ask, this area of 100 miles belongs to you? Yes, what's wrong? Guan asked back. Han Ming was silent for a moment, and said with emotion, I wanted to accept you as a disciple. It can be seen that you have such a vast medicine garden, which shows that Teixuman values you very much. I can't help feeling a little disappointed. You just challenged me and want to accept me as a disciple. Guan complained in his heart, but smiled on his face. Thank you for your kindness, senior. I don't like fighting and killing, and I don't pursue the level of cultivation, so I won't worship you as my master. The two landed and attracted the attention of many disciples. Old Tian, who was napping under a tree in the distance, opened his eyes. He saw Han Ming and his eyes changed slightly. It was obvious that he knew Han Ming. Han Ming didn't recognize him. The two went upstairs and sat down. Han Ming began to talk about his enlightenment process, and Guan listened very seriously. Han Ming realized the truth when he was 200 years old. At that time, he couldn't break through to the 9th level of the Jindan realm. He felt that his life would stop there. So he sat under the waterfall with a depressed mood for 7 days and 7 nights before he realized the truth. After one night, his sword heart suddenly realized and his sword intention transformed. Listening to his words, Guan had an association with the limit of lifespan. I don't know if enlightenment can change the limit of lifespan. So far, Guan has not seen anyone who has broken the limit of lifespan, but the current lifespan is easy to change. The current lifespan of cultivators in different realms will increase with the improvement of realms, but there is no standard lifespan limit for each major realm. After all, lifespan is related to state, skills, natural materials and treasures, etc. Likely Xian Dao, he is obviously in the transformation realm, but some Yuanying realm cultivators have the same lifespan as him. Another example is Ji Xiaoyu, who had a lifespan of more than 800 years when he was in the 9th level of the Foundation Establishment realm, comparable to Li Xiandao in the 8th level of the Transformation realm. If a person is seriously injured, his lifespan will also change accordingly, such as Tian Lao and Lu Jiujia. After all, people are not data, there is no unchanging value. He can only observe more. After Han Ming finished speaking, he asked Guan to tell his enlightenment experience. This time, Guan did not hide anything and told the truth about his worries, but he hid the hate heaven sword. After he finished speaking, Han Ming pondered and said, You are worried about the safety of your disciples, and you realize that you cannot control the fate of others. You have realized the truth in this way. Perhaps you are a genius. In a month, I will duel with Fudao Jianzuan, and I may die. How about I teach you the way of swordsmanship in this month? Thanks to Shi Bushing for rewarding 10,000 Qijian coins, Xingling's Wixu for rewarding 5,000 Qijian coins, Jiqiu Dazizi for rewarding 713 Qijian coins, Shui Rengui for rewarding 588 Yu coins, Xingza Boli for rewarding 500 Qijian coins, Book friend 2022022102145900 for rewarding 100 Xian coins. Book friend 2022122214910450 for rewarding 100 Xian coins. Thank you for your expectation for rewarding 100 Xian coins, belonging to 2023071191309972 for rewarding 100 Xian coins. Today I slept until 2 p.m. before getting up, and it was past 3 p.m. after dinner. Sorry to have kept you waiting for a long time. There will definitely be more than 2 updates today. Chapter 75 Breakthrough to the 9th level of the Fusion Realm. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Passing the sword. Guan instinctively resisted. He has already mastered Tai Tsang Jingshan sword, Wood Spirit sword technique, and even had Tian Divine sword in the panel, so there is no need to waste time and life to practice other sword techniques anyway. He can upgrade his swordsmanship by deducing his lifespan, so why do he need to learn so much? Is it possible that Guan did what he said? Senior, I'm not interested in swordsmanship. To be precise, I'm not interested in fighting methods. I don't even practice much on weekdays. All kinds of flowers and plants are my interests. Han Ming was stunned for a moment, then frowned. Guan pretended to be frightened and explained, Senior, I am not against you. You can go out and find out. All the disciples in the valley know my character. My spiritual root qualifications are limited. Rather than spending my limited lifespan on the illusory dream of becoming an immortal, it's better to live comfortably and enjoy just 200 years. Han Ming looked at him and remained silent. Guan said no more. You can't beg him not to teach you, right? After a while, Han Ming said with emotion, I finally understand why it is easy for you to enlighten. Your state of mind has surpassed that of most monks. If you let go of your obsession and experience the various conditions of the world, it may be easier to gain insight into the true meaning of heaven and earth. The two continued to talk about enlightenment, and Han Ming no longer insisted on teaching swordsmanship. After chatting for a whole day and night, Han Ming just left. He was going to wander around Teixuanmen to find a suitable successor. Guan recommended a person, Zhuo Lin. It happened that Han Ming also knew Zhuo Xian, so he agreed to investigate Zhuo Lin. After he left, Guan began to patrol the third medicine valley. Mr. Tian followed up and asked curiously, Valley Master, the monk before looked not simple, but his clothes were obviously from the Dayu dynasty. What does he want from you? He wants to take me as his disciple and teach me the art of swordsmanship. Then you agreed? How is it possible? If I agree, wouldn't it be betraying Teixuanmen? Although I am not strong enough, I have a loyal heart to Teixuanmen. Guan objected casually. The more casual he spoke, the more sincere Mr. Tian could feel. He didn't think Guan was acting. He had been coming to this medicine valley for many years. Guan was very serious in doing things and treating the handyman disciples. Apart from not liking to practice, he really couldn't find any shortcomings in Guan. Mr. Tian began to accompany Guan on patrol, checking the herbs along the way. The two of them talked about each other. During this period, Guan asked Mr. Tian what he thought of his master and apprentice. Mr. Tian has lived for more than 700 years. Guan is very interested in his insights on life. He may not necessarily imitate him, but it is always beneficial to listen to him more. At the same time, the news about Dayu sword maniac Han Ming's challenge to Fudao sword master quickly spread throughout the cities of Taishan sect. No matter who he heard the news, he had expectations. Han Ming is a world-famous sword cultivator, and Fudao sword master is the most famous cultivator in Taishan sect at the moment. Who wouldn't want to watch the sword showdown between the two? The most important thing is that the disciples of Taishan sect also want to see the true appearance of Fudao sword master and have a glimpse of his grace. Half a month later, when Guan came to Tianya Valley, he heard Luo Han and Yi Luyun discussing the matter. This made Guan start to hesitate. He originally didn't want to accept the challenge, but since there were so many masters of Taishan sect, they would definitely not let Han Ming destroy the sky-building platform. But now that the matter is so big, if he doesn't go, wouldn't it be a disgrace to his own reputation? No. We have to speed up the pace of getting stronger. Han Ming is a genius at killing enemies across realms. With his first-level cultivation of the fusion realm, he wields a sword through the air. What if the car overturns? You have to reach the 9th level of the fusion realm in advance. Guan saw that Han Mingren was not bad, so he decided to give him a hearty defeat. What if he had another epiphany after the defeat? Late at night, Guan kept moving in the mountains and forests. One step at a distance of 100 miles, he was quickly moving away from the Xian sect. Using the Wuji Xiantian step, he felt bad about constantly extracting the aura of Xian sect. This time he decided to break through in an inaccessible place. He wants to break through to the 9th level of the fusion realm in one breath. Alas, things are fickle, and there are always people who interrupt his plans and his rhythm of getting stronger. After traveling nearly 20,000 miles, Guan just stopped. This place was deep in the mountains, and the mountains and forests were filled with strong demonic and ghostly auras. Guan walked to the tree to meditate and directly activated the lifespan barrier. I can't leave anymore. If I leave anymore, I don't know where I will go. Guan began to devote 1,000 years of life to his cultivation, and successfully reached the 2nd level of the fusion realm. The spiritual energy of the earth began to flow towards him. After that, he continued to invest 1,000 years of life. After 1,000 years another 1,000 years follow, until he reaches the 9th level of the fusion realm. He has invested a total of 18,000 years of life. After the 5th level of the fusion realm, each level requires 3,000 years of life to break through. This is related to the aura of his environment. It was okay, he could accept it. After all, it took him more than 12,000 years to go from the 9th level of the crossing void realm to the 1st level of the fusion realm. Seeing that he still had more than 200,000 years to live, Guan felt very happy and began to enjoy the improvement of his realm. The mountains and forests were shaking. Strong winds came from all directions, and green waves filled the ground beneath Guan. Roar! That a deafening roar sounded in the distance. It was a monster beast roaring. Guan was secretly shocked. The aura of this monster was no less than that of the God Transformation realm. There was such a terrifying monster hiding in this area. Fortunately, he didn't come this far during his previous breakthrough. It would be terrible if he was eaten by a monster. Then, another monster began to roar, one after another. The sounds became more and more numerous, and together they seemed to overturn the night sky. Dark clouds rolled in the night sky, covering the stars and the moon. It was hard to tell whether it was clouds or demonic energy. At this moment, Guan felt like he was trapped in a demonic domain. The roars and cries of demons were everywhere, which was terrifying. The forest in front of him shook violently, as if it was about to rise from the ground at any time. In the darkness behind the forest, the huge mountain began to move. With Guan's eyesight, he could see clearly that it was a giant demon, at least 300 feet tall, with a turtle-like body, carrying a mountain on its back, and dust was flying as it moved forward. Guan saw many lonely ghosts surrounding the mountain, like an accompanying army. No wonder the Taizong dynasty, although there were immortal cultivators, could not kill all the demons and monsters in the world. On the way here, Guan's consciousness caught the voices of the villagers in the mountains and knew that he had not left the Taizong dynasty. The Taizong dynasty is very big. Guan feels that it is even bigger than the earth in his previous life. Such a large territory contains countless demons and monsters. The other 8 dynasties are probably not much smaller than the Taizong dynasty, but according to Shenzhen, the 9 dynasties together are just a small corner of this continent. This world is really too vast. Endless earth aura poured into Guan's body, making his cultivation continue to grow. No wonder it took him 18,000 years to go from the 1st level of the fusion realm to the 9th level of the fusion realm. The aura required for this process is too huge. Guan suspects that this movement will affect the area of tens of thousands of miles, and may even affect the Taishan Gate. The 9th level of the fusion realm is still like this. When he impacts a higher realm, will it alarm the entire dynasty? The main thing is to compress the aura absorbed in 18,000 years into a short period of time. The aura extracted is extremely huge. When the aura in this place is exhausted, it can only be extracted from other places. After all, it takes time for the world to restore the aura. No matter. Break through first. No one can stop him from getting stronger. Guan closed his eyes directly and didn't look at the surrounding movements. In the spacious cave, the fires shook violently, stretching the shadow of a large pot. This is a large iron pot with a diameter of 10 feet long. There is a big fire burning underneath. The soup in the pot is boiling and the bones are undulating. There are 2 human children tied up in front of the cave wall next to them. They look only 12 or 13 years old, 1 boy and 1 girl. The boy is grinding the hemp rope on his wrists on the bulge of the mountain wall. Even though his wrists are bleeding, he didn't frown. Instead, his movements became faster and faster, and the bones of his wrist joints could be vaguely seen. The girl next to him knelt on the ground, looking at the cave entrance nervously, as if she was afraid of something. The cave trembled violently, and a terrifying evil wind blew from outside the cave, as if many demons were crying and shouting, which made people's scalps numb. The extreme terror made the lips of the 2 people turn white and their bodies tremble uncontrollably. Finally, the boy broke the hemp rope on his wrist. He quickly took off the rope on his body and untied the girl. However, the hemp rope on the girl was tied too tightly, and he was not strong enough to untie it. A low wheeze came from outside the cave, like the sound of a toad, which made the boy's movement stagnate, and despair appeared in his eyes. He looked at the curved cave in front of him, and saw a huge and fat figure on the cave wall. The faces of the 2 turned pale instantly, suddenly. The fat figure seemed to be pulled out by something and disappeared in an instant. Then, a crisp and loud chewing sound came from outside the cave. The boy leaned against the wall and quickly covered his mouth, fearing that he would make any sound. The tied girl closed her eyes and dared not look at the cave entrance. The spiritual energy of the earth sank, causing the demons to flee everywhere. This night was destined to be restless. 2 hours later, Guan's cultivation reached the 6th level of the fusion realm. He predicted that he would have to wait until dawn to reach the 9th level of the fusion realm. Compared with the previous breakthroughs, his speed of absorbing spiritual energy this time was several times faster, but the breakthrough time was still extended. Normal fusion realm cultivators would not make such a big noise when they practiced and broke through, because they accumulated slowly, rather than absorbing the spiritual energy needed for hundreds or thousands of years of cultivation in a short period of time. Guan waited patiently. Time passed quickly. Dawn arrived, and the first ray of sunlight in the morning passed through the sky. The sky was covered with demonic clouds, and the mountains and forests were surrounded by demonic energy, like thick fog. Guan was meditating under a tree, and he suddenly opened his eyes. The 9th level of the fusion realm, accomplished. Reaching this level, he clearly felt that his consciousness and senses were greatly improved. He even felt that his heart was gathering spiritual power, as if something was growing. The speed of absorbing the earth's spiritual energy began to slow down, and Guan felt that he was more than 100 times stronger than before. The 9th level of the fusion realm is definitely not comparable to the 1st level of the fusion realm. Guan didn't believe that there was a cultivator of the 1st level of the fusion realm who crossed the realm to kill him. As soon as this thought came out, he suddenly broke out in a cold sweat. He almost ruined his Tao heart. You can't think like this. Those who were killed by crossing the realm probably have this mentality. He can't look down on anyone, and he must be mentally prepared that he may be killed at any time, so that he can go all out. Thank you to Xian AI for rewarding 1500 starting coins, Yen Zhou for rewarding 500 starting coins, and Green Skin Orange for rewarding 100 starting coins. There is one more update. It must be more than every day during the new book period. Chapter 76, Exaggerated Lifespan Limit. Guan accepts a disciple. You are listening at novelfull.audio. When the cultivation base is completely stable, Guan will close the lifespan barrier. This time, the lifespan barrier took more than 8,000 years. If this continues, opening the lifespan barrier will sooner or later become a huge lifespan expense. He still has to work hard to earn a lifespan. He looks very rich now. If he wants to improve in all aspects, his lifespan will not be enough. Guan stood up, stretched, and then touched his chest. The state of integration is like a transition, not as phased as the previous state, but this transition is a great test for the accumulation of cultivation. Guan could feel that the next realm was related to the heart, and what condensed in his heart was a sign, but he couldn't tell what it would be at the moment. He took a step and started moving forward. Still using the Wuji Wutang Xiantian step, he kept moving. One step was hundreds of miles away. At the same time, he spread out his consciousness and carefully felt the difference in the 9th level of the fusion realm. Guan stopped, looked in one direction, and frowned slightly. He hesitated for a moment, then moved in that direction. Beside the river in the mountains, a young man covered in blood and dirt stood in front of the mountain wall. He was holding a big stone in his hand. Behind him stood a young girl, who was also in a panic, looking ahead in horror. Across the river, the trees were pushed aside, and a 2-foot-tall wolf demon walked out of the forest. It walked upright, with dark black hair. Even in the early morning, the wolf's eyes flashed with a menacing light. The wolf demon opened his mouth, exhaled turbid air, and stared at the two people in front of him. The boy's arms were shaking with fear, but he still walked forward bravely. The two of them did not notice a figure appearing on the top of the mountain behind them. It was Guan. Guan temporarily put on a set of white clothes and wore a special mask on his face. This was made when he had nothing to do, and it contained restrictions to block the prying eyes of his spiritual consciousness. The breeze blew Guan's robes, and he looked at the two people at the bottom of the mountain, looking for lifespans. Gooden, not popular 12/99/9999. Xiaohua, not popular 12/78/230. The ultimate lifespan of 9,999 years. Guan even suspected that he was dazzled. This broke Ji Xiaoyu's human record. Could it be that this kid also has an innate Taoist talisman in his body? At this moment, the wolf demon suddenly pounced on the young man named Gooden. Guan raised his hand and waved, and a sword energy fell between the wolf demon and Gooden. The gravel flew up and water splashed out, scaring the wolf demon to stop quickly. "Come down, turn around and run away." The dust rushed towards his face, which scared Gooden to the point of closing his eyes and coughing. When the dust dispersed, he looked closely and saw a crack half a foot wide and 100 feet long appearing next to the river, as if it had been cut out by a huge sword. There were footsteps nearby, which made Gooden tremble with fright. He quickly turned around and saw Guan. Although Guan looked like a human being, he was wearing a mask, so Gooden did not drop the stone in his hand. "You are a human, a demon?" Gooden asked cautiously, his voice weak and still trembling. Guan said, "Of course we are human, otherwise why would we save you?" His voice changed, sounding very old, as if he was 40 or 50 years old. Hearing this, Gooden breathed a sigh of relief, but did not put down the stone, which made Guan's eyes flash with appreciation. "Wherever your home is, I'll take you back." Guan continued. When Gooden heard this, he fell silent. At this time, the little flower behind him suddenly burst into tears. "My parents were eaten by monsters." She spoke intermittently, her voice choked with sobs, and her emotional outburst made Gooden's eyes turn red. Later, Gooden told them about their experiences. A group of monsters broke into their village, ate all the adults, and then brought them children to this area. They could see other companions being cooked into soup every day. It was supposed to be their turn last night, but suddenly the mountains shook and the monsters who were guarding them ran out. After daybreak, they escaped from the cave and found that there was no trace of the monster, so they started to run away. However, not long after they ran, they were stared at by a wolf monster that was on its way. Guan was silent after hearing this. This was the first time he had truly seen the suffering in the world. He was born in the Ji family and had never experienced the threat of demons. Later he went to Taishan sect and relied on taking away his lifespan, which was considered to be smooth sailing. Compared with him, these two children are really suffering. Guan felt pity, but Gooden's exaggerated lifespan prevented him from taking him back. This kind of extreme lifespan will definitely cause countless troubles if one is cultivating immortality. Guan even suspected that Gooden had great luck, so the whole family only survived this kid. When he was about to be eaten, Guan made a breakthrough in this area. When he was about to be overtaken by the wolf demon, he was rescued by Guan. If all kinds of coincidences come together, it's not a coincidence. Son of luck. But seeing that these two people had no father, no mother, and no relatives to rely on, Guan couldn't bear it. After thinking about it, Guan decided to take them to a safe place first. He appeared behind Gooden in one step, lifted it up, and then came to Xiaohua's side, holding one person in each hand and moving quickly. The two of them were frightened by his movements. They stopped crying and became tense. After 10 breaths, in a mountain forest, Guan stopped and gently placed the two of them on the ground. He took out a bottle of elixir from his storage bag and poured half of it into each of their mouths. The two of them were choked by the sudden rush of the pill, but as the pill entered their throats, they only felt a warm current flowing down their throats and then flowing to their bones and muscles. This feeling was very magical. The two of them widened their eyes. With an incredible look on their faces, Guan followed the meditation and sat in front of them, asking, "Do you want to cultivate immortality?" That he didn't dare to take Guan back directly, but he could teach him the method of cultivating immortality, so that the two of them could go to Teixuanmen on their own in the future. And it would have nothing to do with him. He would send a top genius to Teixuanmen, which could be regarded as making up for the offense of extracting spiritual energy many times over the years. "Are you an immortal?" Guan exclaimed, his face full of excitement. "I'm not, I'm just trying to become an immortal. Since you have nowhere to go, I will teach you the method of cultivating immortality. In the future, you can worship Teixuanmen and have a destination." Guan replied, and he still kept the method of changing his voice to avoid being recognized when they met at Teixuanmen in the future. Guan nodded quickly, and even kowtowed to Guan, calling him master. He turned his head to look at Xiaohua, who was still in a daze, and pressed her head down, saying, "Call me master." Xiaohua subconsciously shouted, "Master." Guan wanted to refuse, but seeing their expectant faces, he couldn't refuse. Damn it. Is this the influence of great luck? Guan felt that it was not that he was soft-hearted, but that Guan's luck affected him. Cultivating immortals is all about luck, cause and effect, and believing in those illusory existences. "Okay, next I will teach you the secret formula of the heart method, and listen carefully and remember carefully." Guan said seriously. The two of them sat up straight and stared at him closely, fearing that he would be angry. Guan taught them the Yanmu Hunyuan Gong that he practiced. He was not afraid that Guan would learn it thoroughly. When he lived to 1,000,000 years, he would continue to improve this skill. In fact, he also wanted to see to what extent Guan could develop the Yanmu Hunyuan Gong. Until now, he still didn't know what level his skills and unique skills were in the world of immortal cultivation. Time passed quickly. Guan's lecture lasted half a day, mainly for Xiaohua. He talked about the first level of the mental method, and Guan remembered it after listening to it once. The lifespan limit really doesn't lie. Guan asked Guan to practice on the side, and he taught Xiaohua alone. "Master, there seems to be something in my body. Is it spiritual power?" In the afternoon, Xiaohua was still thinking hard, and Guan, who was not far away, suddenly shouted excitedly. Xiaohua opened her eyes wide and showed disbelief, and then her face darkened. Guan said calmly, shouting, "What a disgrace, do you want to summon the monster?" Guan shut up immediately after hearing it. Near dusk, Xiaohua finally remembered the first level of the Yanmu Hunyuan Gong. One night passed. Guan has completely embarked on the road of immortal cultivation, but Xiaohua still has not cultivated spiritual power. Formal 5 spiritual roots require a month of practice to cultivate spiritual power, so Guan was not disappointed with Xiaohua. When the sky just got light, Guan was ready to leave. "Guan, I'm going out for a while and will be back at night. You take good care of your sister," Guan said. Guan opened his eyes, stood up quickly, and asked nervously, "Master, will you really come back? Don't leave us, I promise I won't scream again." Xiaohua opened her eyes and stood up when she heard it. She ran over and hugged Guan's waist, not allowing him to leave. Guan didn't know whether to laugh or cry, but still said in a serious tone, "Master is going to kill monsters, do you want to drag me down with you?" Hearing this, Xiaohua quickly let go. Guan's eyes turned and said, "Master, we are all cultivating immortals, otherwise you can give us new names." He felt that naming was a very meaningful thing. If the master named them, the master would have a closer relationship with them. Guan hesitated for a moment, then raised his right hand, pointed his index finger at the ground, and wrote with sword energy. Guan hurried over and stood beside him to watch. Although they came from a mountain village, there was a teacher in the village, so he could barely recognize it. When Guan finished writing, Guan couldn't help asking, And what? Master, what's the last word? Your name is How represents heaven. I hope you can become the heaven of your junior sister, and also make a piece of heaven for yourself. As for Xiaohua, it's called an Xian. Master hopes you can live a peaceful life and be contented. Guan said calmly, and then he disappeared from the spot. Guden, who changed his name to Hao, looked up and could no longer see Guen's whereabouts. He squatted down immediately, looked at his new name, and murmured, Hao, how. He seemed to want to remember the word how, and Xian squatted down with him and accompanied him to look at the words on the ground, on the other side. Guan hurried towards Taishan Gate. When he returned to Xian Valley, Xian was still leading his disciples in exercises. He walked from the entrance of the valley and saw many cultivators flying in the sky. It seemed that the movement the night before had still alarmed Taishan Gate. The third update. To be continued tomorrow. Chapter 77. The whole world is paying attention to what a sword cultivator is. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Seeing Guan coming from the valley entrance, Xian hurried over. Lu Zhujia was also practicing with the errand disciples. Now he was Xian's right-hand man. He just looked at Guan from a distance and didn't go over. Although he had been back for a few years, Lu Zhujia still didn't dare to face Guan. He tried not to see him if he could, because he felt guilty about Guan. Guan threw so many pills at him, but he went astray and eventually became a useless person. He felt regretful when he thought about it now. He even felt that he deserved his fate. After all, he did a lot of bad things in the demon exorcist hall and deserved it. Guan didn't specifically enlighten Lu Zhujia, just let this kid settle down and reflect. Brother, the spiritual energy was sinking again last night. Although it was not as serious as the previous few times, you still have to be careful when you go out recently. Xian came to Guan and reminded him. Guan nodded and said, I came back because I felt this. How is the situation in Medicine Valley? No, by the way, senior brother, will you go to see the decisive battle between Diu Jianquang and Fu Dao Jianzun? Did Fu Dao Jianzun agree to participate? No, but this matter has been widely spread. Fu Dao Jianzun should show up. The two chatted as they walked towards the attic. Now Xian Valley has recruited a group of menial disciples, and those menial disciples frequently looked at Guan while practicing. They were very curious about the real valley master. It is said that this Medicine Valley can produce an outer disciple every few years. How can they not look forward to it? After chatting with Xian for a few words, Guan went upstairs. He was going to make a few new clothes for Hao and Xian. Half an hour later, he went to the third Medicine Valley to inspect his own Medicine Valley. The third Medicine Valley is too vast, and he must check it in person to avoid any mistakes. The death of a herb will cost him his life. The disciples of the third Medicine Valley were also discussing the spiritual energy sinking the night before, and there were all kinds of speculations. Guan also chatted with them for a few words. Guan did not leave until dusk. The sky was red and the forest was dark, and Hao stood on a branch, looking into the distance, trying to find Guan's figure, under the tree, and Xian asked nervously, will the master not come back? No, the master said he would come back, and he will definitely come back. And Hao said in a deep voice with a firm tone. In fact, he was not sure in his heart, but just pretended to be calm. When he thought that the master might not come back, he felt wronged and wanted to cry, but Xian was down there. He must not cry. His father once told him that boys can cry, but they must not cry in front of women. A hand suddenly fell on Xian's head, startling her, subconsciously screaming and jumping away. When Hao heard this, he turned around quickly, and saw the figure he had been looking forward to all day. He was immediately surprised and excitedly shouted, Master! He jumped down directly, then rushed to Guan and hugged his waist, just like Xian did this morning. When Xian saw that it was Guan, she was also very excited and rushed to hug him. Even though they had only known each other for 2 days, Guan already had an unshakable position in their hearts. Guan pressed ahead with one hand, pushed them away, and whispered, Practice well. If you don't practice diligently, I will abandon you. If we practice well, you won't leave? Hao asked. Guan took out 2 sets of clothes from the storage bag and said, Didn't I tell you that you have to go to Taishan in the future, and your master will not accompany you for a lifetime? When you have the power to protect yourself, your master will leave. Hearing this, Hao's face darkened instantly, and Xian pursed her lips, and her eyes quickly turned red. Guan ignored their emotions, distributed the clothes in his hand to them, and then led them to the river in the forest. Half an hour later, and Hao and an Xian had changed into new clothes, and even combed their hair. It must be said that the two of them looked like a golden boy and a jade girl after changing into new clothes. No wonder the monster kept them until the end. Maybe he couldn't bear to eat them. Guan decided to accompany them every night in the future, and return to Teixumen during the day. There was no strong monster's breath within 1,000 miles, but there were many villages and towns, and it was safe for them to practice here. In this way, day by day passed, the 1-month period finally arrived, the outer gate city was overcrowded, and even the mountains outside the city gate had many cultivators meditating. Many disciples from the other 7 outer gate cities, 4 inner gate cities, and the main city of the sect came to watch the battle, and even disciples from other sects came to watch. Teixumen did not stop this matter, which made the cultivation world of Taizong dynasty discuss it. In front of the south city gate, Han Ming stood proudly, his eyes closed, the sword case in front of him, his hands on the top of the case, the slightly warm late summer breeze blowing his robe. Many cultivators on the city wall looked at him and talked about it. I don't know if Fudao Jinzuan will come. I think it's better not to come. If he comes, his true identity will be exposed, and there will be trouble in the future. Of course he will come. He is so powerful, even if his true identity is exposed, what does it matter? Who in the world can defeat him? It is said that Fudao Jinzuan is the master of the sect. The reason why he did not show up is that he wanted to create another powerful force comparable to the master of the sect for Taishan sect. I heard that Dayu Jinquang has surpassed the transformation of the gods for many years. If this battle really takes place, it will surely be famous for thousands of years. Zuolin and his father Zui Yijian also stood on the city wall, looking down at Han Ming's figure. Zuolin's face was full of worry. He had already worshipped Han Ming as his teacher, so he was naturally worried about Han Ming's safety. Jiang Qiong and Huemo, who was at the 9th level of the transformation realm, were suspended in the air with their feet on a huge gourd, and they were also discussing the next battle. Yi Lan stood on the top of a tall building and looked at the south city gate from a distance. The sky was blue and cloudless. The mountains outside the city were undulating, and the figure of Fudao Sword Master could not be seen. Standing next to her were a dozen law enforcement hall disciples, all of whom were her subordinates, including Zhen Qin, and all of them looked very excited. 5 miles away, Shenzhen, wearing a black veil, stood at the top of the pagoda, looking in the direction of the south city gate with expectant eyes. This sword cultivator decisive battle, which has been brewing for a month, has attracted the attention of the entire Taishan sect, and even the world of immortal cultivators is waiting for the outcome of this battle. Under the spotlight, Han Ming kept his eyes closed and waited patiently. At the same time, 15,000 miles away, in the spacious mountain forest, Guan was instructing in how to practice swordsmanship. After 3 days of absorbing qi, and Hao reached the 2nd level of the qi training realm. Now he has reached the 3rd level of the qi training realm. So today, Guan taught him the swordsmanship of the Taicang Jingshan sword so that he could have fighting skills, and an Xian is still practicing, gathering the first ray of spiritual power. The qualification gap between the two is like a chasm. Guan only taught it once, and in Hao memorized the sword moves, making it very smooth for him to teach. Is this what it feels like to teach genius? No wonder the great monks doted on geniuses, and even he was a little partial to An Hao. While An Hao was practicing his sword, he asked curiously, Master, what is the name of this sword technique? He was holding a wooden sword, but there was a fierce wind when he swung the sword. Taicang Jingshenjian, you are the only one who has learned my swordsmanship. Don't insult this swordsmanship in the future. Guan said, with An Hao's talent, he would definitely be enshrined after entering Taishan sect. It would be even worse if there was another inheritor of Fudao Sword Master. In the future, if Teixumen wants to suppress An Hao, they will have to consider whether it is worth dealing with Fudao Sword Master. Taicang Jingshan sword. An Hao murmured to himself, his eyes shining. He could feel the exquisiteness of this set of swordsmanship. Every time he practiced the swordsmanship, he would gain new insights. This feeling made him addicted. The sound of waving swords echoed in the forest. Guan stood aside and watched quietly. The wooden mask obscured his face, preventing An Hao from spying on his expression. In the distance, an Xian opened his eyes and looked, his eyes full of envy. She also wants to practice swordsmanship. An hour later, and Hao actually mastered sword energy. He swung the sword blade and the sword energy swept across Gu En's shoulder. It hit the tree trunk behind him and made a small sword mark. After practicing the sword energy, and Hao seemed to have opened up the two channels of Ren and Du. He moved faster, swinging his sword to move through the clouds and flowing water as fast as a giant. The spiritual energy in the mountains and forests gradually surged towards him. Gu En looked secretly nervous. What kind of monster is this? He felt that he had made a big mistake. If he hadn't saved An Hao would have been buried in the demon's belly, and there would be no such evil genius in the world. He began to mourn for Liya, who wanted to be famous all over the world, and for Ji Xiaoyu, Lu Xian, Zhou Tongyu and other peerless geniuses. I'm sorry, but the #1 position in the world from now on belongs to my disciple. Gu En himself is not interested in being the best in the world. After all, even if he is invincible, he may encounter enemies from the sky. What he pursues is the end of the road to immortality. He believes that this is not the only world. Until noon, Gu En said, "Stop." When An Hao heard this, he immediately sheathed his sword. He was sweating profusely and panting, but his face was full of energy and his eyes were as bright as torches. "Master, how am I doing?" An Hao asked with a proud smile. At the age of 12, he was already showing his enthusiasm. Gu En said, "You care too much about the sword in your hand. Remember, the sword is not in your hand, it is in your heart and what you think. Everything can be a sword. Go and pick a leaf." Hearing this, An Hao scratched his head and walked to the side. Gu En then waved to Anshin, and the eagerly awaited Anshin immediately smiled and quickly got up and ran over. "Exainer, you go pick a leaf too." Gu En said softly, "Feel free to do it immediately." After a few breaths, the two came to Gu En, curious about what he was going to do. Gu En first picked up the leaf in An Hao's hand and said, "A true swordsman can display the power of a peerless sword even if he holds an ordinary leaf." He held the leaf between the fingers of his right hand and waved lightly towards the distance. The leaf flew out, and An Hao and an Xian followed. Boom! A strong wind suddenly blew up, ruffling their hair, and their eyes widened with disbelief on their faces. The leaf suddenly erupted with terrifying sword energy, shattering the forest in front of it, killing towards the horizon with overwhelming momentum, and disappeared in the blink of an eye. A clearing 10 feet wide appeared in the forest ahead, dusty and shocking. That direction is exactly the direction of the outer gate of Xian sect. Thank you for waking up and working hard to have a future. You will be rewarded with 500 starting coins, Buyu Sunhua will be rewarded with 500 starting coins, and Just Seeking Freedom will be rewarded with 100 starting coins. Chapter 78 The Two Leaves Decide the Outcome. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The outer gate of Xian Gate, in front of the South City Gate. Fudao Sword Lord, if you haven't shown up within 1 stick of incense, then I will carve 2 more words on the Tianbu platform. Han Ming's voice sounded, as loud as thunder, echoing between heaven and earth for a long time. His words caused a lot of discussion among the monks. Although the disciples of Xian sect frowned, they did not dare to insult him. After all, he was polite before fighting. After waiting for a month, Fudao Sword Master did not come. Even the disciples of Xian sect were a little disappointed. Zhuo Lin on the city wall breathed a sigh of relief. In fact, he felt that Han Ming was no match for Fudao Sword Master, but after spending a month together, he really didn't want anything to happen to Han Ming. Zhuo Yijian looked into the distance, and his intuition told him that Sword Master Fudao would definitely come. The noise in the city grew louder and louder. On the gourd magic weapon, Jiang Qiong whispered, "Could it be that Fudao Sword Master is really the master of the sect? It is possible that although Han Ming is not much stronger than Chu Xian, if Fudao Sword Master wants to defeat him, he must reveal his true form, so he does not dare to show up." Hu Mo said thoughtfully. If Fudao Sword Master is really the master of the sect, that would be interesting. It would be considered a self-directed drama. His expression was teasing and his tone was disdainful. The gourd under their feet glowed faintly, and there was a restraining force that isolated them from the surrounding space. Jiang Qiong was about to say more when suddenly, a powerful sword intent erupted from the South City Gate, and then, an unimaginable pressure came from the south. she suddenly raised her eyes and saw Humo next to her doing the same. In front of the South City Gate, Han Ming picked up the sword box and stepped forward 100 feet. He placed the sword box on the ground and the bottom sank into the soil. The sword box opened and 2 swords popped out on both sides. His right hand was pressed on the top of the sword box, and vast sword intent erupted from his body, shocking all the spectators. Before the eyes of most people could follow his figure, a sword energy came rushing from the end of the world, overwhelming the mountains and forests all the way, making it unstoppable. In the blink of an eye, this sword energy hit Han Ming's vast sword intention. Han Ming's sword energy formed a blue light curtain, nearly 200 feet high, which was extremely spectacular. When he was hit by the mysterious sword energy, his blue sword energy tore apart. As if he was defeated all at once, he widened his eyes and looked up. A leaf reflected in his pupils. Boom, the leaves passed over his head forcefully, causing his black hair to flutter, and he stumbled back 2 steps. The faces of all the monks on the city wall changed drastically. Zhuo Yijian subconsciously raised his arms to protect his son. He vaguely saw what was hidden in the sword energy. There was another roar, and the city wall trembled, but it did not collapse. When the violent sword energy dissipated like a strong wind, a leaf appeared on the city wall, embedded in the wall, with spider web-like cracks appearing around it. Han Ming stabilized his body, stepped forward again, pulled out 2 swords from the sword box, raised his head and looked into the distance. Flying leaves are passing by, and strong winds are roaring from the end of the world, trying to uproot everything in its path. Han Ming remained motionless, his robe pulled back to highlight his strong physique. He stared at the horizon as if facing a formidable enemy. The monks watching from all directions and the monks in Xian sect were all holding their breath and concentrating. Fudao Sword Master is here. Wow! Master, you are so powerful. What kind of swordsmanship is this? I want to learn it. After a brief moment of sluggishness, and Hao jumped up excitedly, Guan picked up the leaf in an Xian's hand and was so surprised that an Xian looked up at him. I'm using the swordsmanship I taught you earlier. When you master it, you can be like me. However, the real mastery of swordsmanship is to return to nature. You can have unstoppable momentum without such a big fanfare. Guan said softly, and then threw an Xian's leaf, and Hao's eyes followed the leaf. The leaf floated lightly for 10 steps, then suddenly accelerated, like a flash of thunder. This time, this leaf did not cause the deafening momentum just now. It looked ordinary, but it was very fast, and Hao chuckled and said, I just like things that are noisy, enough to bluff people. Guan put his hands on their shoulders and led them to disappear into thin air. More than 15,000 miles away, in front of the south gate of the outer gate of Xian Gate, Han Ming held 2 swords and stood ready. The world is silent. Everyone is waiting for Fudao Sword Master's next move. Suddenly, Han Ming's pupils shrank suddenly. He immediately let go of the 2 swords in his hands and began to cast spells with both hands. The remaining sword in the sword box was unsheathed, and 3 swords surrounded him. As his right hand pointed forward, he immediately raised the tip of his sword and charged away. The 3 swords intertwined and surrounded each other, and the terrifying sword energy exploded, turning into 3 long sword energy dragons rushing forward, rolling up the big trees along the way, causing dust to fly, the earth and mountains trembling, and the monks in the sky were thrown away one after another. The picture is extremely spectacular. A ray of cold light swept from the end of the world. It was a leaf surrounded by sword energy. Coming. Han Ming stared closely at the leaves on the horizon. This leaf was not as oppressive as the previous leaf, but his intuition told him that this time it was more dangerous. That leaf suddenly accelerated. It turned into a ray of cold light and powerfully dispersed Han Ming's sword energy. The 3 swords were directly bounced away. Before they could stop, Yi had already reached Han Ming, so fast. Damn it! Han Ming was shocked, and subconsciously pushed his palm out. The robe on his body burst out with golden light, and a golden bell shadow condensed. Boom! The leaves directly smashed the golden bell shadow and pierced Han Ming's right shoulder. The powerful force made him unable to resist at all. His body was pulled out and the ground under his feet broke. Han Ming fell all the way and hit the city wall. which cracked the wall behind him, but did not cause the city wall to collapse. The reason why it did not collapse was not because of how hard the city wall was, but because of Gu En's deliberate control. Han Ming was hung on the city wall, blood spurted out of his mouth, and he hung his head as if he was dead. Master! Zuolin lay on the shaking city wall and shouted nervously, I don't know how many cultivators took a breath of cold air. The great Daiyu sword maniac was defeated by Fudao Swordmaster with 2 leaves. How big is this gap? Flying Leaf Sword Immortal. Fudao Swordmaster is Fei Sword Immortal. A Xian sect disciple shouted excitedly. He didn't need to point it out, all the spectators thought of this. On the gourd magic weapon, Huemo opened his mouth, but in the end, he didn't say anything. Yilan looked at the remaining sword energy in the sky, her eyes full of envy. What realm does one have to cultivate to have such a power that is almost like a ghost? Shenzhen flew over the city wall and landed on the ground. She quickly took out a pen and paper and began to draw the picture of Han Ming hanging on the city wall. Under the blue sky, between the mountains and fields, a small town is located next to a large lake. If anyone asks you, don't mention me, just say you are the children of this town. Guan said in a voice transmission, and an Hao and an Xian followed and landed. They subconsciously looked back and could no longer see Gu En's figure. At this moment, they were in an alley, and the earth walls on both sides were covered with moss. An Xian was about to speak, but an Hao covered her mouth and said, Sister, let's go catch frogs. He gave an Xian a look, and waited for an Xian to nod before he let go. Then, the two walked out of the alley one after another, and they were attracted by the bustling streets, and smiles appeared on their faces involuntarily. After all, they were still children. On the other side, Guan took off his mask and put on a green Taoist robe. He walked into an inn. It was a rare trip, so he was ready to enjoy the scenery of the world. He came to the second floor of the inn, walked to the table by the window and sat down, asked the waiter to serve the signature wine and food, and then looked at the street outside the window. There were all kinds of vendors on both sides of the street, and some Jianghu tourists came and went. Guan even felt the breath of immortals, but there were not many people. The diners in the inn talked about the grievances of Jianghu knights, which made Guan feel like he was traveling again. Before the wine and food came, Guan felt a strong sense of consciousness passing through the town. Sure enough, someone was chasing him. The sense of consciousness disappeared in a flash and never appeared again. Guan was not in a hurry and was ready to relax today. After the wine and food were served, he began to drink alone, admiring the ancient streets with people coming and going under the window. The sun sets and the moon rises. After night fell, the town was still bustling, with red lanterns hanging on the buildings and streams running through the town, glowing with dim light. Guan came to a stone bridge, his eyebrows slightly raised. He felt a trace of demonic energy sneaking into the town. It was not too strong, just the level of a second-level demon, equivalent to the foundation building stage. Guan had planned to return to Teixumen early tomorrow morning to enjoy the victory. So he was not in a hurry to see what the demon wanted to do. There were no cultivators in this town, but the second-level demon was so cautious. Could there be a special reason? Guan walked slowly in the direction of the demonic energy. When he passed a courtyard, a voice called him. Junior brother Gu. The voice was old, with surprise, hesitation and other emotions in it. Guan turned his head and saw an old man in a yard looking at him. The old man had white hair and a hunched back, and looked to be in his 70s or 80s. Guan frowned, and suddenly thought of something, and asked hesitantly, Brother Zhang. Zhang Chuanxiu. After not seeing each other for so long, Guan almost forgot Zhang Chuanxiu's breath, and Zhang Chuanxiu's appearance and figure changed a lot. The old man hurried out and said excitedly, It's you. I felt that the person on the bridge looked like you when I was upstairs just now. I didn't expect it to be you. Brother Gu, why are you here? You became an outer disciple and went out to perform a mission. Guan nodded and said, Almost, brother, why are you here? Isn't this too coincidental? Zhang Chuanxiu smiled and said, This town is the richest town near Teixumen. I plan to live here for retirement. That makes sense. Guan chose to come here because it is popular and safer here. Zhang Chuanxiu grabbed Guan's wrist and smiled. Come in and chat. You shouldn't be in a hurry, right? No hurry, no hurry. Guan replied. He could feel that there was no one else in the yard, and he wanted to ask where Xiaoyan was. He had overheard Zhang Chuanxiu talking to himself before, and knew that Zhang Chuanxiu went down the mountain for a girl named Xiaoyan, thanks to the book friend 20230711191309972 for the reward of 200 starting coins. Don't worry, there are still updates. 9,000 words a day is a lot. Although the interruption is a bit long, I also want to write better and don't want to update hastily. Wait for my next chapter. Ask for monthly tickets. Chapter 79 The Devil Guan, famous all over the world. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The moon in late summer is very round, but there are too many clouds and fog, and the bright moon is quickly obscured. Guan and Zhang Chuanxiu were sitting in the room chatting. Zhang Chuanxiu talked about his experiences over the years, and he listened carefully. Zhang Chuanxiu's story seems to be written by a scholar. He left Teixumen for the woman he loved, but that woman was a demon. In his early years, Zhang Chuanxiu went to Teixumen to seek immortality. He was attacked by monsters on the way. Fortunately, he was rescued by a female demon named Xiaoyan, and finally entered Teixumen smoothly. He always remembered Xiaoyan's kindness, and would go out every year to find Xiaoyan. The relationship between one person and one demon quickly grew. After many years, with no hope of building a foundation, he chose to go down the mountain and enjoy the rest of his life with Xiaoyan. After they met, they came to this town together, bought a villa here, got married, and gave birth to a son. After spending a long time with the monster, Zhang Chuanxiu's spiritual power was drained, and even his vitality and blood were declining. Xiaoyan couldn't bear to drag him down, so one morning, she left without saying goodbye. After hearing this story, Guan wanted to say something, but he held back. You may think that I was deceived by her, but that's not the case. The combination of a human and a demon results in this. The reason why I went down the mountain is because the path to immortality is hopeless. I have no regrets. She lived longer than me, and I don't have many. It's a good thing for her to leave early to avoid life and death. Zhang Chuanxiu said with a kind expression, and his cloudy eyes seemed to see through the vicissitudes of the world. Looking at him, Guan couldn't help but think of how young Zhang Chuanxiu was when he first entered Xian Valley. Really, things are different and people are different. He found out that Zhang Chuanxiu only had 3 years left to live, which made him feel a little sad. Half an hour later, the evil spirit that Guan had noticed before came to the yard, and it was Zhang Chuanxiu's son, Zhang Buku, second floor of Foundation Establishment Realm 22/460/2300. The 22-year-old second-level Foundation Establishment Realm is definitely a genius. Is it easy for the combination of man and demon to give birth to a genius? Guan suspected that it might be because Xiaoyan's qualifications were too high. Buku, this is your uncle, Guan. Zhang Chuanxiu waved to Zhang Buku, who had climbed over the wall and was admitted to the hospital. Zhang Buku looks like a 16 or 17-year-old boy, except that the hair on his cheeks is thicker. Hello, Uncle Gu. Zhang Buku came over and greeted timidly. Guan smiled and nodded, then took out a bottle of elixir from the storage bag and said, "This is a top-grade spiritual energy elixir. Let's treat it as a meeting gift." How can this be done? Senior brother, are you disgusted? How is that possible? I think it's too expensive. The two pushed for a long time, but in the end Zhang Chuanxiu couldn't defeat him and had no choice but to let Zhang Buku take it. Zhang Buku looked at Guan curiously. This was the first time he received a gift from someone other than his parents, which made him have a good impression of Guan. Zhang Chuanxiu began to ask about Xian Gu's situation, but Guan did not hide it. Hearing that Qing Xiandan and Meng Lang were dead, Zhang Chuanxiu was not sad, but just a little emotional, and asked Guan to be careful in the future. Later, when Guan mentioned that Liya had formed a pill, Zhang Chuanxiu was amazed and said that he had already seen that Liya would soar into the sky. The two chatted for a long time. Guan didn't leave until Zhang Chuanxiu couldn't hold it any longer. Before leaving, with Zhang Buku's support, Zhang Chuanxiu turned around and said, "Junior brother Gu, you have already established the foundation, which shows that your qualifications are not too bad. Practice hard and go see the world hundreds of years from now for senior brother." Guan stood at the door, looked back at him, and nodded slightly. From beginning to end, Zhang Chuanxiu did not ask him for anything, just reminiscing about old times. When Guan walked out of the yard, he couldn't help but look back. He could hear the whispers of Zhang Chuanxiu and his son. Zhang Chuanxiu was asking his son where he was messing around today. Zhang Buku said that he met a young man and the two fought. Got up, the young man he met was in Hao. When the two fought before, Guan felt that although there was a gap in cultivation, Zhang Buku did not have murderous intentions. After a few moves between the two, he left. This can be regarded as fate. Zhang Buku has a maximum lifespan of 2,300 years, and is likely to become a famous great demon in the demon clan, not to mention in Hao. That is the qualification to be the best in the world. Many years later, when the two meet, will they remember their childhood experiences of fighting in this small town? The corners of Gu An's mouth raised, and he disappeared into the night, early morning hours, in the barren mountains and on the edge of the cliff, and Hao and an Xian meditated sitting on the left and right sides of Guan, practicing together facing the scorching sun. The sun shines on them, and the picture is so harmonious. There were 3 blood marks on the left side of Hao's face, which were scratched by Zhang Buku. He had been looking for Zhang Buku last night, but unfortunately he couldn't find him. He was still angry when he left the town and came to this no man's land thousands of miles away. Unfair. Guan couldn't sit still, so he stood up and said, "Master, I have to go out for something. I'll come back in the evening. Hao, take good care of my junior sister." After that, he disappeared into thin air on the cliff, and Hao and an Xian opened their eyes and looked back, but the master was no longer there. "Who do you think master is? Why can he only accompany us at night?" An Xian asked curiously, and Hao touched his chin and thought, "Do you still remember the story about the rivers and lakes mentioned by the storyteller who came to the village 2 years ago? I estimate that the master is one of the greatest demons in the world, but his reputation as a demon should be misunderstood. Otherwise, how could he save us? That's why he doesn't want us to be implicated in his reputation." An Xian widened his eyes and asked, "If master is really a devil, what is he going to do now?" "I don't know, but no matter what, he is our master. He treats us very well anyway, and we must remember his kindness." Yeah. Guan, who was called the Big Devil by his disciples, returned to Xian Valley and came directly to the Third Medicine Valley through the teleportation formation. As expected, after the war, someone will come to find him. Guan walked into his attic room and saw Shenzhen drawing on the desk. "Saint Shen, are you the master of my place? You come here as you say, aren't you afraid of offending me?" Guan said helplessly. Shenzhen didn't even raise her eyes and said, "Come and see." Guan immediately walked over and frowned when he came to her side. "Is this Han Ming?" "Yes, how is it? Do I draw well? Aren't you afraid that others will hate you?" "He dares. My father is not a vegetarian." Shenzhen snorted, making Guan silent. "It's great to have a backer." Guan looked carefully, and he had to admit that Shenzhen's painting skills were extraordinary. She drew the scene of Han Ming being nailed to the city wall very clearly, and even drew the cracks on the city wall. "How is it, how is it?" Shenzhen asked proudly. Guan snatched her brush and added a few strokes to the drawing paper. Shenzhen squinted and then widened his eyes. Guan added some traces of strong wind and shadows to make the picture look more tense. This is the way of drawing comics on Earth. This painting method does not mean that it is better than Shenzhen's, but the key is that Shenzhen has never seen this kind of painting method before. It is obviously just a piece of paper, but it makes her feel the trajectory of the movement, as if drawing the process of Han Ming hitting the city wall. She turned her head to look at Guan, and couldn't help but say, "Do you know how to draw?" "A little bit." "What about poetry and songs?" "I know a little bit of everything." Shenzhen's eyes showed admiration, which made Guan raise his chin. "Are you pretending with me?" "That's right, after all, you can write the investiture of the gods." Shenzhen sighed. Guan asked, "Why did you paint this picture? Does Shenzhen have a grudge against Han Ming?" "To be honest, I am very interested in Fu Dao Jianzun. I always think he will be a handsome and cold swordsman. So many people came to watch the battle, but he didn't come out. He is really charming." Shenzhen's eyes revealed a fascination. Guan's mouth twitched, and said, "What if it is an old man who is not handsome?" "It's not impossible." In addition to writing a book, I want to investigate Fu Dao Jianzun and must find him out. Find him out for what? Of course, to become a Taoist couple. Panan, you don't think that I often come to you because I like you, right? Although I don't like to practice, my Taoist partner must be a top-notch cultivator in the world, otherwise I will offend people when I write books and paint in the future, and the other party can't stand it. Shenzhen rolled his eyes at Guan, then put away the drawing paper and walked towards the door. Guan shook his head and laughed, and didn't chase after him. After Shenzhen left the Medicine Valley, he went downstairs to check the herbs. Those errand disciples were still discussing Fudao Jianzuan, and everyone had a fanatical look on their faces. Guan was in a good mood listening to their flattery. Although he had just been very impressive, Guan would not be arrogant. He still had to be honest and diligent to accumulate life. The 9th level of the fusion realm could not satisfy him. In a blink of an eye, a year passed, and another summer came. Up to now, Guan did not go to Anhao and the others every day, but went twice a month. Anhao's cultivation had reached the 9th level of the Qi training realm and could protect an Xian. Last month, Anhao passed the assessment arranged by Guan and personally killed the wolf demon that had chased them before. Guan let the wolf demon go, leaving it for Anhao to kill. Well, he admitted that when he first saw Anhao's qualifications, he had a plan for a lot of training. The reason why they had not gone to take Shuman was because an Xian's cultivation was not enough, and the two were still young, so they could learn more from Guan. On this day, at noon, Guan came to the outer gate alone. He first came to the Butian Terrace. There were more and more sword cultivators on the Butian Terrace, and many of them were not Tai Xian sect cultivators. The news that Fu Dao Jianzun Liang Yi severely injured Dayu Jianquang spread wildly in the cultivation world. Now Fu Dao Jianzun has become the most admired person by Tai Xian sect disciples. Even in the past year, every time Guan came to the outer gate city, he could hear the disciples talking about it. After the reputation of that battle spread, more and more sword cultivators came to visit, and Tai Xian sect did not refuse, but only increased the defense force of this outer gate city, which also led to a surge in Jiang Qiong's power because she was the elder of this city. Guan looked from a distance and saw Han Ming standing next to Zhuo Lin, cursing impatiently, while Zhuo Lin sat on the ground with a gloomy face. Guan was happy. He just wanted to see this scene, so he recommended Han Ming to accept Zhuo Lin as his disciple. Zhuo Lin is a genius, but his understanding of swordsmanship is extremely poor, but he just loves swordsmanship. After Gu Anil was happy for a while, he looked at the other people on the stage, wanting to see if there was any unfamiliar great monk. This time, there really was one. Thanks to the book friend Yu Qianmeng for rewarding 500 Qidian coins, and the book friend 202303080115254669 for rewarding 100 Qidian coins. The third update. Chapter 80 Epiphyllum Ghost Mother, Lu Xian returns. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Epiphyllum Ghost Mother, Fusion Realm Level 23750/8090/54000. Fusion Realm Level 2. Such an exaggerated lifespan. First the Yellow Spring Demon King, then the Epiphyllum Ghost Mother. Why do they all feel like characters from the underworld? Guan secretly sighed that ghosts actually have a lifespan, which means that even if they die, they cannot exist forever. If you think about it carefully, it is true. If ghosts can exist forever, wouldn't this world be ruled by ghosts? I have only heard of 1,000-year evil ghosts, but not million-year ghost emperors. Of course, it may also be that Gu An's level is not high enough and he has not come into contact with them, but at least this world is ruled by humans. Perhaps there is a force in the dark that suppresses the existence of ghosts and keeps everything in balance. Although the human race has a short lifespan, they can practice quickly, and each has its own advantages and disadvantages. The Epiphyllum Ghost Mother disguised herself as a female disciple of Taishan sect. She looked very young, and her cultivation aura was suppressed in the foundation building realm, so that people could not detect her abnormality. Guan didn't look at him for fear of being noticed by the other party. There are so many monsters in Taishan sect, as long as they don't threaten him, he doesn't bother to care. Gu Xiaoyu. Han Ming suddenly came over with a smile on his face. Although he experienced a miserable defeat, he didn't feel ashamed, but was very fortunate. Fudao Jianzuan nailed him to the city wall with a leaf. The sword meaning contained in the leaf benefited him a lot. This was obviously a pointer. With Fudao Jianzuan's ability, if he wanted to kill him, he would definitely not survive. Guan looked at Han Ming, who was coming over, and immediately raised his hand to salute. Han Ming stepped forward, enthusiastically held his hand, and said, "Gu Xiaoyu, since you are here, you must practice sword with me. The disciple you recommended to me is really too stupid, and it makes me angry." As he said, Han Ming pulled Guan towards Zhuolin. Guan couldn't break free from his hand while hiding his cultivation, so he could only walk away helplessly. Han Ming asked Guan to sit next to Zhuolin, and then taught him the sword skills. Zhuolin was very happy to see Guan, and he kept talking to him, which made Han Ming very angry, and he bombarded Zhuolin again. Zhua Yijian sat aside, watching his son being scolded with a smile, and he also looked at Guan. Apart from his good looks, his cultivation was very ordinary, and I don't know what Han Ming liked about this boy. Zhua Yijian closed his eyes, feeling the sword meaning contained in the word righteousness, while recalling the scene where Han Ming was defeated. In the dark, he seemed to have grasped something, and it seemed to be an illusion. This complex feeling made him sink. It took a full hour for Guan to get rid of Han Ming's retention. Han Ming's sword skills were only said once, and he remembered it, but in order to keep a low profile, he had to listen to it 6 times, which was really tiring. Guan left quickly in Han Ming's disappointed eyes. I have to avoid Han Ming when I come to Butiantai in the future. This guy is too annoying. Guan thought to himself, and then he went to the medicine hall and the library hall to report, and then went to the great elder's mansion to visit Jiang Qiong. In the lobby, Jiang Qiong threw a storage bag to Guan and said, "These are all high-level herbs I collected. When they mature, you can get 20%. Master is good to you, right?" Guan scanned it with his spiritual sense, and his face was brightened. "There are so many seeds, and the lowest grade is 4th grade. "Thank you, Master." Guan said sincerely. Jiang Qiong can find other races. She is now the great elder and has great power. Hearing this, Jiang Qiong smiled with satisfaction. She liked to see Guan thanking her. Try not to sell the Tsangting fruit. This thing has a great effect on improving blood and bones. It is a treasure that cannot be measured by spirit stones. Jiang Qiong said earnestly. Obviously, she found the record of Guan selling Tsangting fruit. Guan nodded. He didn't need spirit stones to buy seeds now, so he naturally wouldn't sell them. Next, I am going to work harder. Your Medicine Valley can be part of my credit. Cultivate it well. Master will find you the golden elixir of a Jindan realm cultivator in the future and use secret techniques to help you become a Jindan realm cultivator. Jiang Qiong continued. Guan hurriedly thanked him again. Then, Jiang Qiong waved his hand, indicating that he could go down. Guan turned and left. Just after taking 2 steps, Jiang Qiong's voice floated from behind. Guan, are you writing a book? As soon as these words came out, Guan's heart trembled. What does it mean? Did Jiang Qiong find out? Or was it a test? Guan turned around and asked in confusion, what book to write? Jiang Qiong looked at his face and didn't seem to be guilty, so he shook his head and said, nothing, go back. Guan scratched his head, and then left with a puzzled look on his face. Jiang Qiong sat in a chair and thought. After a long time, she took out a book from the storage bag and began to read it. There were 4 words on the cover, Taixian's Secret Biography. The summer was hot. 13-year-old Han Hao lay by the river, facing the sky, his head submerged in the water, his mouth gurgling and bubbles coming out. Not far away, an Xian was meditating under a tree, her brows slightly furrowed, and it was obvious that her practice was not going well. A figure covered Han Hao's body, causing him to open his eyes. When he saw who was coming, he quickly turned over and stood up. Master. Han Hao quickly got up, rubbed his wet long hair, and then used his power to steam his hair, causing wisps of white smoke to come out of his head. Guan wore a mask and said in a hoarse and low voice, I won't teach you swordsmanship today, but I will teach you leg skills. Hearing this, Han Hao's eyes lit up and he became excited. Finally, he didn't have to learn swordsmanship. Han Hao not only has strong spiritual roots, but also has a high level of comprehension. After practicing the Taicang Jingshan sword for a year, he has mastered the moves and mental methods. The next step is to cultivate his own sword intention. Guan raised his leg and stood on one leg. This posture immediately frightened An Hao, and even an Xian, who was absorbing qi, was attracted. This kick is called the wind and shadow leg. You watch it. Guan said in a deep voice. Currently, only Yilan has inherited this move. Others practice the wind leg. Although the wind leg is the basic leg method of the wind and shadow leg, if the two are put together, it is difficult to think that they are closely related. He is not afraid that Yilan and An Hao will recognize each other's leg methods in the future. If they can recognize each other, it means that they are fighting, which is just right for An Hao to show mercy. After more than a year of getting along, Guan has regarded An Hao as his own child. An Hao is not bad by nature, and even has a chivalrous spirit in his bones, but he is just careless. Guan kicked out, and in an instant, thousands of leg shadows burst out, a strong wind suddenly rose, splashing water, the opposite forest collapsed directly, the mountain wall 100 feet away collapsed, and there were dense footprints, which were very spectacular, and even the sea of clouds in the sky was swept away. An Hao was dumbfounded and trembling all over, and an Xian also looked at him with wide eyes. What a domineering leg technique. I want to learn. I want to learn. It feels more powerful than the Taicang Jingxian sword, An Hao shouted excitedly, and he even raised his legs and kicked a few times. Guan said, the Taicang Jingxian sword is stronger than the Guangfeng Juying leg, but I didn't show you all my strength. I know, I will never forget to practice the Taicang Jingxian sword in the future. An Hao promised hurriedly. Guan began to teach him the moves. As always, An Hao remembered the leg techniques after just one look, and then began to practice them himself, over and over again. He became more and more proficient. Guan suddenly felt that it was time to arrange for An Hao to go to Taishan sect. This kid's talent is too terrible. If he could join Taishan sect earlier, he might be able to lay a better foundation, and he could only teach him skills and unique skills, but, Guan thought of an Xian. This girl's talent was too mediocre, forget it, let them go. He couldn't change her talent for the time being, so why worry about her? Guan decided to wait for another half a year and send the two children to Taishan sect. In 10 years, An Hao will probably be able to make a name for himself. I don't know how long it will take to catch up with Li Ye and Ji Xiaoyu. Guan even began to look forward to Li Ye fighting with An Hao. Li Ye is naturally strong and will fight with An Hao sooner or later. There are fellow disciples fighting in Taishan sect. The gap between the two is more than 30 years, so they can actually be considered peers. In the hot summer, An Hao was soon covered in sweat, but he was still tireless and was excited to train his legs. Although he was still young, his sweat soaked his clothes, and his body outlined the muscle lines, which was very powerful. Guan just stood aside and watched quietly. Tianya Valley, Guan was sowing seeds, and Sun San was carrying a basket beside him, following closely. In order to prevent being seen, Guan did not only pick seeds, but also did other things occasionally. I'm back. A voice came from the mouth of the valley, and Guan knew that Lu Xian was back without turning his head. Lu Xian, dressed in blue, came from the mouth of the valley, holding a folding fan in his hand, handsome and elegant, and looked more manly than he was in red before. How is it? Is it going well? Duddy Luyan, who was meditating on the top of the mountain, asked, and his voice echoed in Tianya Valley. Luo Hun appeared in front of the attic with a spear in his hand to welcome Lu Xian's return, and Guan had to salute him. Compared to LV Xian, Guan was more concerned about Li Ye's situation in the 100 Clans conference. LV Xian had a calm smile on his face and said, it went smoothly. Although there were some twists and turns in the middle, as expected, I won the championship smoothly. Hearing this, Luo Hun and Yi Luyun both smiled. They all worked for Li Xiandao and would experience life and death together in the future. The stronger LV Xian was, the happier they were. Yi Luyun asked again across the Medicine Valley, don't the geniuses of the Ji family, Gu family, and Zhou family pose a threat to you? LV Xian replied, there was a woman named Ji Xiaoyu from the Ji family who made me suffer a little. Unfortunately, she withdrew halfway and I didn't defeat her in an upright manner. I feel a little regretful. Apart from that, there are less than 5 people who can be my opponents. Are your Majesty's children satisfactory to you? Luo Hun asked with some expectation in his tone. Lu Xian shook his head and sneered, although I admire His Majesty, his children are really not good, not as good as him at all. By the way, there is a prince named Leia, who has shown a bloodiness that makes me look at him with new eyes. In order to win him, I have to break his hands and feet. It will probably take a year or two to recuperate. As soon as these words came out, Luo Hun's face changed drastically. Guan also frowned, thanks to Shenro Xiaoyandan for rewarding 1500 starting coins, Chocolate Emperor for rewarding 500 starting coins, and Mengli Zongxiangfang for rewarding 100 starting coins. After 3 days on the shelves, the average subscription is 8,000. Thank you for your support. Updates start today.